En español, whatever. Live in stereo from Culver City, Florida, or possibly somewhere on the other side of the moon. Who knows? It's Toxic Femininity Live, brought to you by Midnight's Edge. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Well, these three fine, lovely ladies tonight, anyway. And then
hello. Hi. Hello. Hello, everyone.
How's everybody doing? Like, if this was a Disney movie, I'd be the goofy little guy that Danny DeVito voiced.
So
I'm Tom, the co-host.
Like in Hercules, I'm totally blanking on his name. Phil. Oh my gosh, there we go.
Sal.
Yes. Yes.
Welcome everybody to the one, the only, the original Midnight's Edge After Dark Midnight's Edge presents Toxic Femininity. I am Tom Connors, of course. With us tonight is let's see here. We got Eris of Chaos for the first time on the channel. How you doing?
Hello. I am doing great. Hi, all the humans in the chat. Hello. Hi. I'm great. I'm wonderful. And
we're very glad to have you here, indeed. And also returning once again, the lovely
Hello. How is everybody tonight?
I am excited.
I'm doing better every time I get to say
I love it. I love it.
Also joining us, of course, the producer who without I couldn't do anything when it comes to this show. I could barely even make the microwave popcorn that's in the office. Miss Lorena Creel. How you doing?
I am doing great, Tom. So glad to be here with all of you. So glad Eris is joining us, and so glad all of you out there are joining us for the stream. Please do hit that like button and share it out. And I'm glad to be here. Nice and comfy. It's kind of cold in Florida for Floridians. For me, it's like the fall back in Philly.
Let me guess, it's 50 degrees or something, and you're like, brrr.
Oh, yeah, it's 56 degrees, and Floridians are out like in puffer jackets. I'm walking around. I'm on my porch with like a cup of coffee.
At least we know where all the lizard people live now.
Yeah.
Because y'all complain once it gets to be about 50. We're just like, fuck, that's fucking Bahama shorts weather. What are you talking about?
Oh, you know, every time you go to like Disney and it's like below 50 degrees, the only people at the pool are Michiganders, Cape Codders, and Canadians. They're just like, this is great.
You're from the Upper East, right? So, like, you know what cold's like. You're just like, give me 30 below before I got to wear a jacket. You know, like around here, it's like, but anyhow, welcome to the show, everybody. We want to thank you for joining us tonight. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about some Disney news all around. Sean Penn.
Yeah.
Why?
It's going to blow your mind when you find out.
You know he's not playing Spicoli again, damn it. But maybe he's been getting into Spicoli's weed.
That might explain stuff, but if that's the case, please stay there. Please stay in that weed stash.
Yeah. Daily dose, twice a day.
Are you on dope?
Please continue to be.
Yes. We will keep you supplied.
What's wrong with you kids? You need to smoke more. Yeah. Oh, yes, indeedy do. And we have a few other things to discuss. But before we do all that, we have a lovely, lovely chat we want to talk to, see what you guys are up to. Share out the link.
Yes, please.
And hit that like button. Show the ladies some love. And we got to kick things off tonight. Just some other guy. has a $9.99 super chat for us. Let's get rolling.
All right, just some other guy for a $9.99. Thank you so much, my dear, for that generous super chat. Hail, Toxic Femme. I've come to test your knowledge of Star Wars this night. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Woo! I'm already nervous.
Ooh.
Answer correctly, and I'll send another $10 chat. 20 if you do it without any help. I like these super chats. Who was the arena champ of Taurus in KOTOR?
Is it Black K?
Good luck. I'm tapping out because I did not play KOTOR.
Me neither.
I'm gonna guess it's Black K, but I'm not sure.
Don't ask me.
I hope she snagged it for us. I really do, because of KOTOR. I'm out. EU, I'm out. Movies, I got you.
The game is Knights of the Old Republic, and it is a fantastic game, and people still play this game. It is an amazing game, but I'm not quite sure if that's the answer. I know that in part of the game, you end up in the arena, and you have to, I think, maybe play or challenge someone in the arena there. But I believe that the champion may have been Black K.
I hope she's right.
A lot of people are saying Bendick in the chat.
Oh, then it's sorry, wrong.
Oh well, she tried.
You didn't even win a lousy version of our home
'Cause
game.
I didn't freaking
Be
know.
ashamed. Be very ashamed.
I would have said, who's Spartacus?
I am Spartacus.
I too am Spartacus.
No, I'm Spartacus.
Spartacus.
Oh,
One of the best classic movies out there.
Mhm.
Let's see.
another one from Just Some Guy.
This for you.
Yes, just some other guy for $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much, just some other guy. We so appreciate it. If Cameron gets my question from last week right, next time he shows up, I'll throw in another $20.
I forget what the
luck.
question
Yeah, you'll have to add me
was.
or what it was again.
They slept since then.
Yeah. You don't have to send another super chat. Just say Midnight Sedge.
Yeah.
I'll save it in the background here. And then Eris, if you want to read this, go right ahead.
Okay. Dark King, I think, is that Australian? I
Yes.
think
It
that's
is.
it.
It's
Okay.
Australian for money.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try to do an Australian accent. I will insult the entire continent. All right, Dark King for $2 Australian. Tom, look up the orbital friendship cannon meme.
Oh, Lord.
I'm
What do I
scared.
need to
What
do?
is? I always get worried when people do that because I don't know.
If it were me, I would have read it Dark King A. So don't feel bad.
Yeah. If I didn't have caffeine before it came off, I would have done that
I did
too.
that about 20 times already. So it's
Orbital
Yep.
friendship. I'm scared to know what that is.
Yeah, see?
I'm really scared.
My Little Pony stuff, because that's all I see.
Oh, don't click too hard. Don't.
Yeah.
Internet and My Little Pony don't fix very
That's a scary place.
family friendly. So.
Oh, Lord. That's all I see is My Little Pony stuff here.
okay.
Um,
It's a big group.
Yeah.
My Little Pony fans. So the last Comic-Con that I went to, I actually went to a panel. I can't remember what the panel was about, but it was great. I like, the group and the crowd, and it's fun to talk about the ponies.
Yeah, until you get to the bronies, and then
Yeah.
Oh, we're not going to talk about the bronies.
Yeah.
But why though? Of all
Look,
the fandoms, why?
I get it. Some of them are probably very sincere, genuine, nice guys, but a lot of y'all come off creepy, just saying.
Yeah. See, yeah. And then
Creepy
you dress up, and that makes it weirder. Stop. Stop.
I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not into some weird stuff too, but not like that.
Yeah, see, there's that line, and then you're like, okay, weird, and then there's like the weird. It's like that's gone into the weird category.
I don't need to be
Stop.
fighting some dude for Rainbow Dash accessories at Bill's
Yeah,
Fair.
you're going to get,
Okay.
that's going to get hectic and crazy.
Mm-mm.
No, like I said, most guys I know that are pretty nice. So no, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, it was
Offense
a fun
intended.
bunch. So, I was glad to
Yeah.
be there, especially, the way things have been going these days, just to even see other fans I was just so happy.
But it looks like
I was talking about the creepy ones. So
that looks like this, but the meme is all about whenever this person goes nuclear, this orbital friendship cannon goes off. So yeah. And it has to do with rainbows, it looks like. There's just so many different memes. I'm not seeing one that's like the most popular anyway. So Bird Up is in the house.
Bird Up. Ow. For $2.
Bird's a word.
I hear that every time I see your name. Thank you for the $2 super chat, my dear. I never knew Peter Dinklage had such a short fuse. Oh, you didn't see Elf?
I forget he's in that movie. Oh my god.
Elf.
He had that funny thing in you ever seen, I doubt anybody's here seen it, but it's like Living in Oblivion, I think it's called, like Steve Buscemi and a bunch of other people. It was like early mid-90s movie. He goes on this like rant about, he's like, why a fucking dwarf? It's like, you got a weird dream sequence and then you're like, oh, just put a fucking dwarf in it, and that's weird. It's like,
I don't think I've ever seen that.
yeah, it's kind of hilarious.
Oh.
Well, they're making a movie and shit, but yeah. All right. We're gonna get on that subject definitely in a bit here. We got a super sticker from Aiken or Aiken, however you say that.
Aiken. Hello.
Aiken one day. And it's a little Shiba dog. Farting hearts.
Smells like cinnamon.
Cinnamon. I say sweet tarts.
Sweet.
Whatever.
It's sweet.
Pixie sticks. If you snort one, that's what it smells like.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Lug nuts is next.
I think that's
Yes. Lug Nuts 6 for a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Lug Nuts 6. To these dreamy diamonds of toxic femme, Lorena, and Eris. Heart. Oh, we love you too. And to Sir Tom, my best in respect and joy.
How you doing?
There you go.
Yes, these diamonds are golden.
Diamonds forever.
Yes.
Tom, diamonds forever.
You're a copyrighted.
Once in a while you can get her to sing, and when she does, it's really good.
I know my limit.
I should probably do this one, or I don't know. Let's let Eris try it. Can you do your best Sean Penn from Fast Times?
I don't even know what that is, so probably not.
I can do it if not. Bird Up sends in $2 and says, "That's my skull. I'm so wasted."
Oh, dude, bro. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, he kind of brought the surfer dude to the big screen for the first time.
And
you can grab this one then, Eris.
We apologize. I'm sorry to some other guy. I didn't know it. Bendak Star Killer. Sorry, I didn't know that was the answer. But now I know. I actually watched the walkthrough of that game a few times too. I could not remember. So I apologize.
Yeah, so as just some other guy says, the answer is Bendik Star Killer. There you go. And then we got Ariel Koto here.
All right. Is this me?
Yeah, you can take that one, Eris.
Right. So, went from being a guest to a regular.
Yeah, I mean, she's kind of pretty much a
regular guest.
Regular guest. Yes.
That is a thing.
Yes.
It's just like Mandy's dealing with family life and kids and all that business, and when she'll be back eventually, and we'll be back too, and I'm sure we'll work it all out as things roll along. But and just till then, yes, she's definitely helping us out and doing a great job of filling in as a regular guest.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
So I'm sure we're always going to have her around in some capacity. So we also have another one here from Craig Lee Talks, I think it is.
Yes, Craig Lee Talks for $2. Thank you so much for that, my dear. Much love to the special guests. And Tom, as always, raise a glass to you.
How you
Yes.
doing? Awesome. And then we got Steven, aka Deleted Scenes, next, it looks like.
Yes, Deleted Scenes. Hi, Steven, for $2 super chat. Thanks so much, Deleted Scenes, for your super chat. Hail, ladies, mods, chat. Oh, yeah, and Tom.
How you doing?
Damn.
There you
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
Wow.
Eris, you got this one, my dear.
Oh Jesus Christ.
Go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
Hey, Mr. Iron for $20. Thank you so much, Mike. Hail to brother Tom, slash, comma, looks so lovely today. And I am super proud to see my sis, Eris. Yay, I'm happy to see you too. Lorena, I have good news. You have one free Mexican for any theme park adventure. Redeem in 2022.
That's his way of asking you on a date.
Yeah.
I love it.
Can you get me free? Can you get me free flour tacos?
Psh, of course he can.
Okay, cool. We down.
He has a taco truck. Come
This is
on.
Mike we're talking about here.
Yeah.
That's like done deal, lady.
It's a date.
This one
Yes.
is clear.
Thank you, Mike. Just don't make me have to get a what you call it, HR department here. So
A chaperone, you know.
then Nicholas Horton is sending in some
Queen's money.
Queen's money for Supastika. Let me see if I can see what that is here. It is a Shiba dog as well. Farting little hearts.
Aw.
Thank you so much. And with that, I think that brings us up to speed for now. We'll get back to super chats here in a little bit. But in the meantime, these ladies have some news to get into. So I'm going to boot myself to the back room.
Y'all got fancy transitions and everything.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Right. They hook us all up here on this channel. So oh man. So Snow White is back in the news.
Yeah.
And to clarify the live action Snow White production. So I'm pretty sure you ladies are aware that when the live action version was announced, a young actress, Rachel Ziegler, was cast as Snow White. And it turns out that her casting got a lot of people talking, because she basically is Latina, being cast as Snow White. What did you ladies think when you first heard this news?
I was happy for her. You know, I know she works hard, and she had just done, this West Side Story. She's apparently, I think, is it a Golden Globe or a SAG Award or one of those two?
I think Golden Globe. Mm-hmm.
And so, she's riding high off of this elation of this. And, I was disappointed that there was so much backlash against her for taking this role.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yes.
Sorry. Let's see. I don't even remember what my opinion was, because I don't care, because Disney keeps doing these stupid live action remakes when I have something better that I can just put on at any point. So
Shouldn't we put an asterisk next to these live action remakes? Because 9 times out of 10, they're almost completely animated anyway. I mean, at least this one will have a real person in it as a star, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it could have had a chance to have 7 other people in it as a star, but we'll get to that foot and mouth part like a little later. But Eris, you're right. When it comes to these live action things with Disney, they just keep warming it over and rebooting them. Like case in point, live action Lion King. Just go watch National Geographic
live
instead,
action.
honestly. Because it made no sense. It was soulless compared, because the original animated Lion King, oh my gosh, so many feels with that. And with these live action remakes, are just warmed over. Nobody freaking cares about it. Frankly, I'm not gonna see it. However, the backlash that she got, now, some of it was kind of her own making in a way, because when she had first announced it, I don't know if you guys remember, but she had basically said, yes, I am Snow White. No, I am not bleaching my skin for the role, before later deleting it. So not exactly the best thing to come out and say. However, I always have to asterisk this. It's like, I'm not saying it's okay, but I understand. Because one of the things that started happening with this is people were getting race and ethnicity confused. I had people come at me when I said this is not a race swap, because people were flipping out. And you have some people who still make videos about this saying that it's a race swap. That is not accurate. Latina is not a race. Latino is not a race. I'm Afro-Latina, okay? Rachel Ziegler and I are both Latinas, okay? We obviously do not look the same, do we? We don't.
Wow.
I know, right? I know, right?
Well, I'm just learning this. Oh my God, you don't look. I thought you could have been twins.
Don't clutch your pearls too hard.
I was actually born a poor black child, if anybody's curious. But
born
I
a
know
poor
it.
black child. That's a classic for
and now I'm a poor white man.
Steve Martin.
But here's the thing that cracked me up. People were just like, "Oh, well, how would you like it? You know, if Black Panther was race swapped." I'm like, you know what? I probably wouldn't, but if you want to do that, go on ahead. But the analogy with this is, again, like I said, Latino is not a race. Okay, number one. Her mother's Colombian, her father is Polish. So we get that out of the way. The way that they cast this, imagine them casting James Bond as an Italian or as a Frenchman. Guy's still white, right? But he's not British. And that's the crux of it. So according to the Grimm's fairy tales, which I read back and forth many, many times, Snow White is described as hair as dark as my window pane, lips as red as blood, skin as white as snow.
Yeah,
Rachel
Snow White came
Ziegler,
from.
exactly. Rachel Ziegler is not what I would call fair skinned. She's not even fair skinned Latina. And yes, they are out there. You know, just to tell you guys, they are out there. But the casting doesn't fit the story that we all know. So you can't blame people, especially considering what's been constantly going on in Hollywood with race swapping and all, all that. Again, this is an ethnicity swap. It doesn't line up.
That's fair.
Well,
I think it'd be weird to see James Bond being played by like a super heavy, thick accent Italian man. I don't know.
The title on this article says Rachel Ziegler on responsibility and privilege as a white Latina in Hollywood. Is she a white Latina?
I think that's what she's identifying as.
Technically, I think.
Okay.
That seems to be what she's identifying with. And here's what I find interesting. This didn't used to be a thing. It didn't used to be a thing until you started getting into, of course, like a lot of, I hate using that term wokeness, but it's true. But one of the other dark and ugly secrets that people don't talk about when it comes to the Latino community is that there is colorism in that community as well, as prevalent as it is in in America. Okay, if not even more so, from what people have told me. So that's actually true, and that's actually out there. But they kind of like to try to keep Latinos just like one singular block.
No.
Basically looking like Miss Ziegler, here. So I think it's like the same thing, like how you have, white privilege, like, oh, I have white privilege, so I have to, acknowledge my privilege. So this is the penance that she has to pay. in order to acknowledge the fact that, yes, there are, darker skinned Afro Latinas who do not get the same opportunity that she does. So of course she has to cop to that.
Well, the first comment that she made about not lightening her skin, or at least I'm not getting the exact quote correct, reminds me of John Leguizamo's article where he spoke about how he tried to stay out of the sun. He had to make sure he stayed out of the sun. And of course he's implying that he would get tanned and therefore not get as many roles. So it seems like
What?
Oh yeah.
It's not the exact same statement, but it seems like they both have the same concerns.
They do. If you've ever seen, because one of the things that I watch a lot is like Telemundo, Univision. I watch a lot of telenovelas. I know I shouldn't, but I do it anyway.
I seen one time where this lady beat the hell out of some little girl in a wheelchair and shit. It was hilarious as fuck.
God damn it.
It is crazy, but I watch them to actually, help me learn Spanish. But
I had no idea what they was saying, but I'm like, that bitch is pissed.
That's how you know they're good actors. You don't even need closed captioning. You already know what's going on and who's pissed at who. But there's been telenovelas where I've watched and I'm just like, I know there's Afro Latinos and I don't see any like at all. And if I watch like say Univision or Telemundo, you would hardly know that unless, they're perps in a crime. Then again, American television does the same thing. So what I'm saying is it's there, but it's not talked about. But it's the same thing. So John Leguizamo is actually right. There is colorism, and even in Puerto Rico, same thing. Like I have cousins who are in Puerto Rico. They're darker than me. Okay, they're darker than me, and they tell me about the rampant colorism, that's there. Don't go in the sun, don't do all of that. Rachel Ziegler actually looks like my great grandmother. She had the same exact complexion, same exact. Yes, she was Afro Latina, same exact complexion. People used to think that she was white, and this is in the Jim Crow South. Yeah.
Damn. Well, they do that in like a lot of pop stars in Asian communities like K-pop and J-pop and whatnot. They will bleach their skin because having whiter skin is a sign of like wealth and like higher class in a lot of Asian communities, particularly in the pop star portion of it. And they have whole ass like sections in their grocery stores with bleaching products. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for real.
Oh, that's
You're welcome.
that's true. But that's true. That's a real thing. I have some friends who are Indian, and yeah, they've been taught that if they have lighter skin that they're more valuable. But to kind of bring it back to what we're talking about with Rachel here, and her now, that was her reaction then. Her reaction now is a bit more softer.
You're gonna love them in the right direction.
I'm gonna love them, and we need to love them in the right direction.
That sounds so imagine if a man said that. Just saying.
It's like saying, I'm only beating you because I love you.
He's going to make everyone see the right direction.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I love Andrew Garfield.
Obviously, anybody who disagrees with her comments must be in the wrong direction.
Yeah, we're going the wrong way. Yeah, it would be if they did that. And Paulie, yeah, Paulie is absolutely right about that. And I think someone else had made a comment about what about light versus dark skin in the Black community. Yes, that is very prevalent. That's extremely prevalent. But you're used to seeing that here, and we're more accustomed to that here in the US, where we don't really see like say if you were in Latin America, that you could see the colorism that's going on there. That's something that I didn't even know until I started researching my own family. And I'm like, what do you mean I have cousins in Puerto Rico? I'm from America. What do you mean I have cousins in Colombia? And they're telling me cousins from Mexico. They're just like, none of us never left, you know, San Luis Obispo. So how can we possibly, you know, be related? I'm like, get a beer.
Honestly, I got to ask a question about this whole bleaching thing, and I understand where Leguizamo's talking about, especially coming from that community or whatever. You know, I've heard stories and stuff like that, but it's like all throughout my life, I could never understand that because all the white people I know would try to tan the fuck out of themselves.
Oh
I
my
know.
god!
To try and get darker complected skin. I just don't understand this. It you know, and then there's the old saying, tall, dark, and handsome. Yes, I know it has more to do with the hair color and stuff like that, but at the same time, you know, the whole word, like, you know, exotic sounds like so titillating, like, because you think about, oh, somebody is exotic, they're different than the norm that you're used to, right? Like why is that such a bad thing? Why is it all of a sudden we can't celebrate each other's differences instead of just being, you know, it's always like, oh, I got to be more of this, I got to be more of that. And it's like, who cares, right? Like, I just don't understand. It never was a thing to me, and I never could understand it. Why? Like, because my, you know, like what's that actor's name? George Hamilton, who's always like darker than dark can be.
Oh, he was like a leather suit.
He's still alive, I believe. Yes, but
wow.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I got it before you got it, but yeah, the bronzed look. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. How many girls were tanning before prom in high school? Jesus Christ! Like, just
gosh,
it's so popular, and I don't know if that fell off. Like, I guess it just did.
Skin cancer.
I guess
now it's self tanner. Now it's self tanner.
Yes, the lotion and the
yeah.
And that stuff, I got that stuff by mistake, and I had like an arm darker than the rest, and I didn't know what to do with it. How do you explain a darker arm?
I just don't get it, but you're right. It's like I would run into like some Asians who it's like dark skin was frowned upon, so they wanted to either stay out of skin or use bleaching cream. Then I had, you know, friends who were white who wanted a tan like all the time. I even had one classmate that says, I'm going down to the shore and I'm gonna try to get tan, so I'm as dark as you. I'm like, dude, that's not gonna happen. That's really not gonna happen. Don't put your, you know, your health in jeopardy or anything like that. But it's I think a lot of it is also perspective, you know, depending on where you are. It used to be that uniqueness was celebrated, you know, that if you were different, you know, you're okay. You know exactly who you are.
I think it's very interesting to imagine what young women think about this now, like what both of you said, Eris and Lorena, like about high school, because we remember what it was like in high school, and I think all three of us have the same experiences of what that was like. But now that things have seemed or appear to be so different, you know, body images seem to be different. I wasn't quite sure if that, you know, transfers over into the colorism spectrum, you know, or even like the desire of looking at yourself and saying, okay, I could take any kind of makeup in the world and make myself look any shade or color in the world. It's possible. But the desire for the more permanent look, you know, like getting a tan or doing skin lightening, you know, that it doesn't seem to have died down, because all we have to do is look at the stores and advertisements. Like if you go on to some of the retailers online, they are selling self-tanning products, and, you know, I can still go to any drugstore and see those products being sold there. So, you know, it is very interesting to see that, you know, clearly there is still a market for it. And there's a certain amount of the population out there, probably worldwide, who are using these products.
Oh, definitely. Especially if you walk into a Sephora, anytime there's like spring break to the summer, just like clockwork. You know, you see, all the tanning products and stuff, that's out there. There were certain bleaching creams that were popular in the Black community years ago. Of course, hydroquinone, whatever that is, of course, that's banned. You can't use that here. But in a lot of African countries and Caribbean countries, they still sell it. So some of them come here and want to buy it, and it's like, no, that's banned. We don't sell that here. But that's a very real really real thing. Is it colorism just another form of racism? I would call it discrimination, because to me, racism is a very charged word. But colorism is definitely a form of discrimination. Like I say, I keep going back to like my great grandmother. Okay, she was very, very light skinned. People thought that she was white, and she got certain privileges because she looked that way. Her mother, who was even lighter than her, okay, the census taker came to their house, talked to them. Her husband wasn't home at the time. Talked to her, had her and her kids written down on the census as white. Her husband came home. He looked like a Black Frank Sinatra. I kid you not. That's what he looked like. Census taker took one look at her, marked all of them down as mulatto. Exactly.
Okay. But they assumed a lot by doing that. And at the time, I think when the census might have been done, let's say 20, 40 years ago, the enumerator, the person who would do the counting, was asked if the person didn't identify what their ethnicity was. This may not have been everywhere in the country, but let's just say in some places they were asked to fill in what they believe the individual was. Well, they could be anything. Like it's impossible to say what this person is. Like, how could you even say that? So, it's kind of a slippery slope. But there's been so much emphasis on it in this country. Like, it's so important for people. And we can see that it's important from this casting for individuals, I guess, just by color alone, maybe not ethnicity, but color. So, I don't think anybody could really 100% guess someone's exact ethnicity. You'd be like an expert to do that. But, people are just going by sight alone. This person is this person is that. And it seems like no matter what color you are, someone could have a problem with it. It's really a bad situation. And I think you're both right about just accepting, or was it Tom, just accepting people for their differences at this point.
I always look at it as there's only one race, the human race.
Exactly. It's like we all have sorry. Oh, Eris, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just agreeing.
Okay.
I mean,
that was the
if aliens come down right now, they ain't gonna give a shit what color we are or what shape our eyes are. They don't give a fuck. They're either gonna kill us, live with us, or fuck us. So like, considering what they do to cows and us,
damn.
They're obsessed with their butts. That's all I'm gonna say.
Anal probes.
Oh, Cartman, you got an anal probe, didn't you? I think of that every time I hear anal probe. I think of Cartman. I think there used to be a time in this country. I have an anal probe. There used to be a time in this country where culture was celebrated. All kinds of culture was celebrated. And that was pretty much where we were. Now there's this emphasis on color instead. And that's very dangerous. Like, it's very dangerous assuming what someone's ethnicity is. And that's what happened in this case. People assuming that she was Black just on looks. And it's like, come on, no, that's not, that's not it. But unfortunately, that's the climate that we live in. But I want to play this before we move on a little bit
about the role and about the experience.
I never in a million years imagined that would be a possibility for me, particularly Snow White. In general, you don't normally see Snow Whites that are of Latin descent.
No, you don't.
I think she looks perfect for it. I'm sorry, this is just my opinion.
No, she looks perfect for it.
She does.
I'm looking. You cut the hair. You get the little
she has
thing in the dress.
She has, the little, the little V chin. So
I just don't want them doing live action movies anymore.
They need to freaking stay away from it. God, it's just
especially when
even though Snow White is really a big deal in like Spanish speaking countries. Blancanieves is like a huge icon.
Is it?
Huh.
Why not?
I guess I've just
I don't know.
okay. Granted, this is just friends of mine, people that
Is
I
it-
knew who were like from maybe it's a peninsular thing. I don't know, but I know a lot of people from like the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. I don't really hear them talking a whole lot about Snow White, so that maybe I don't know, maybe just a regional thing for her, because that's another thing for folks to remember. A Latino is a broad spectrum of cultures.
Yes.
It's not one monolithic culture. So that's something else to kind of keep in mind.
I'm from Texas, so I mean, I haven't heard anyone
I
talking about it.
know that. So that's interesting. So let her continue on for a little bit.
Whether you're talking about the Disney cartoon or just different iterations in the Grimm fairy tale and all the stories that come with it. So she is really big in the Spanish language, but you don't particularly see people who, look like me or are me playing.
You literally look like her. What do you mean?
She really does, doesn't she? That's what's so weird about it.
Yeah, looking at her like here, like of course you'll have like some articles that kind of make her skin a little darker for whatever, blah blah blah. But it's like in this setting, like I could see it,
She looks like this Peruvian friend of mine. Literally looks just like her.
Yeah, not in the pictures, but in this interview. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So.
Roles like that. So it was definitely, when it got announced, it was a huge thing that was like trending on Twitter for days because all of the people were angry. And so
Oh, go ahead, Eris.
I hate humble brags. I'm like, oh no. Oh, I was trending on Twitter. Oh no. For days. Oh. Oh, poor me. I know. I'm popular. I know. Oh my God.
I mean, she was, but
yeah, it's just like that's not a problem. Stop.
I mean, she got announced for a rather first of all, she got announced for something Disney, so that was already, gonna
a big deal. Yeah,
exactly. So it was gonna be a big deal, and this day and age, it's pretty cool. It's like, I'm trending, I'm trending on Twitter.
It was like
those people,
very much this. Yes, it was this
people that we
awakening
need to educate, the people that we need to love into awareness.
Love them in the right direction. Exactly.
No, he said awareness.
Yes.
That's different from in the right direction, isn't it?
He said awareness. And she said love them in the right direction.
But I think his love into awareness is a little different. I think he was talking a little differently about love into awareness. Let me make you aware. Come, let me make you aware.
Sit down.
All I know is I'm gonna make y'all aware of the fact that I ain't a liar. As you can see here, this is the fucking real shit.
It's one of my favorite memes.
That's the meme right there.
Beats the hell out of this girl in the fucking wheelchair.
How dare you steal away from me?
Beat that slut's ass. Yes.
That's your brother.
This shit's about to go down.
You can tell by the look on her
I
face.
got no fucking clue what's happening, but I'm riveting.
I'm here with y'all.
We gotta see. Dun, dun, dun.
I'm sorry. I get all excited.
Yeah, get her.
Oh, you're about to beat the bracelets off her. Goddamn. No.
Fuck that bitch.
I love him.
Oh my gosh.
She didn't mean it, mama.
I didn't know it was my brother.
Do you notice she does not have a hair out of place?
Oh, hell no. Her hair is incredible.
Her ass and her hair
It just
is
keeps escalating from
It's
there.
incredible looking. It's just like the whole thing is just.
Just in case anybody thought I was lying, I had to show that
we
off.
didn't think you were lying.
No. Tom.
But we do have a special guest in the back here. Welcome, Paulie of
We got
Midnight Español.
Hey,
Oh my
Paulie.
God.
Hi.
La reina, no me digas eso.
Sorry, did
Wow.
you speak Japanese? What the hell just happened?
Oh God, that brings back like childhood memories. And the thing is that if you look at the, if we're talking, since we're talking about complexion here, the complexion of everyone in that very Mexican, novela is they're very light skinned, and that's always been that. That's always been that, up until very recently. So hi, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hola.
Hola.
Yeah. But me and Lorena, we kind of like with Robert Meyer Burnett, I'd say 6 months ago, we got on the channel real quick and broke this down, because there is a media backlash, as far as just her not being, they were like, skin as white as snow. Like they just were like, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And then the comments of her stupid comments, that's one thing. But yeah, she got a little heat.
Mm-hmm.
So, Paul, you
I
wearing
like
heels?
that girl in the wheelchair.
But you're right. She did, one, in a way, how she kind of came at people. So it's like I can feel where that's coming from, but at the same time, it's one of those. I guess I want to chalk it up probably to youth, because she is only 20.
She just turned 20.
Yeah. So I can
Yep.
kind of excuse that part, because how would you feel if you're 20 years old, you get this pivotal role, and there's somebody like you playing this role, which has never been played before. And then you have people coming at you basically saying, one, typecasting you as Black when they really have no idea and it's not even accurate, or saying that, you shouldn't have the part, or basically reminding you that, Snow White has, white skin. So you're taking, the character away from somebody else. So you kind of have all of that coming at you. So it's like, it's not an excuse, but I understand.
It's understandable. And I wanted to speak about colorism, within the Latino community. Usually within a family is a great example. That's why I wanted to jump on, Lorena and Eris. Thank you for letting me jump on.
You have to wear heels and a dress.
I'm here.
So
I'm here.
That's the only thing.
I heard there was some Colombian snow.
Okay, the next one, Eris. I'll wear a wig.
Okay.
Wait,
And
am I
that woman
Prometo.
was I lied to? Was there no Colombian snow here?
No Colombian snow.
Ah, fuck. God damn it.
But yeah, really quick on the colors in the family, they just treated lighter skin differently, taller people differently. It's just a weird ass thing, and my mother's 5'2", lighter skin than me. My dad's little shorter than I am, but más indio, he's like Indian, So you just, that's just how these families are sometimes. And Lorena hit it right on the, it's like this really weird love, hate, racism with your relative, with your own blood, like it's some strange shit, man.
It really is. Like, I would have Latino cousins tell me, about the rampant colorism in their community, like so and so, like the whole thing with pelo malo, bad hair. Okay, that too. Of course, that's mainly like a Dominican thing. Like if you have kinky hair, it's like, no, you're Haitian, you need to do something, to kind of straighten that. Where if there's siblings who have, straighter hair and lighter skin, it's like they're treated differently. It's this weird, dynamic that goes on. But a lot of it is, cultural. We have the same thing, that same kind of caste system that was actually developed in the South during slavery. Same thing. You had the same thing that happened in Latin America. Of course, here we have the civil rights movement, so that's progressed. But Latin America, I was gonna say, it's probably like 35 to 40 years, behind that. But that is what happens, in the families there. It's just one of those things. It's not talked about very much. I didn't know about that until I started hearing from Afro-Latinas in the media, especially some of them that, get roles in Hollywood, and they start talking about that particular life.
And here's the flip to that. a lot of Afro Latina actresses, you didn't even know they were Latina. You were always just like thought they were Afro American or Black. It's like, oh shit, like I was shocked, to find out some of these actors, which I think is wonderful. But to me, it's almost the same thing as Passing, where Oscar Isaac, dropped his last name. That shit still goes on, which is a trip. And Rachel was saying, I'm a little fortunate because I am white Latino, I'm a Ziegler, and I was talking to Romy about this, and it's just the thing where you change your last name, especially, this has gone on still, and you just get more auditions. It's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing.
Could have been worse. You could have been Ricky Zuela.
And then I give you that look.
That's from Obama, kid.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that in a while. It's funny that you should mention that, Paulie, because there's this one Afro-Latino actor, and I cannot remember his name to save my life. But the thing is, his middle name is Latino. His last name is American. And it wasn't always that way, because when he would go for auditions with a Hispanic last name, like he went to, I think the audition for like a Black production. They said, we don't hire Latinos. He's like, well, my mom's Black. Like, yeah, well, you got a Latino last name. He started removing that so he could actually get work. I'm like, that is insane.
I mean, these are historical stories that you hear from actors, like and I think the positive with Rachel's generation, they don't really deal with that. There's like, this is who I am, this is my last name, and this is like you said earlier, white Latino. You're like, what, but they're at least they're owning it. I watched this whole interview, and I have to tell you, and as much as I respect actors, my better half is one. It's always just such an in-house thing to hear an actor interview another actor. You're just like, ugh. And really the controversy is just only at the last minute, but it's just really an actor fest. It's really schmackery, but I wanted to tell you that. And what's really interesting is this must be the day of actor interviews coming out. I think it's the season because of the award season. The Academy, that did the KK Fade In, that infamous video. They're now coming out with a bunch of brand new interviews, and they put up Edward James Olmos. And I want to tell you guys this because I would love for you guys to share it. I'll get the link. That interview, compared to the Leguizamo interview that's right next to it, compared to this interview, that is a lesson in humility and gravitas that this man doesn't, even in this extended interview, he's like talking about everything else but himself. He's talking about his life, but it's an incredible interview.
Well, that interview is like a combination of this Rachel Ziegler article and the one with the other gentleman we were talking about with
Johnny Legs.
We were talking about.
John Leguizamo.
Yeah, I'm saying that John Leguizamo's interview is a combination of this Rachel Ziegler interview and the one we were talking about earlier with the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh, Peter. Yeah.
It's almost like this one, the John Leguizamo one, is a combination of the two of them together, because he covers everything that's in both of those separate interviews. And, John is it's kind of, has had a long career, a little bit much longer than Peter had, has, let's say, but he is, doing this from a Latino point of view. So a lot of what he says in that one interview is pretty much a combination of those two separate interviews. And, John, what's interesting about John in the interview is that he is 100 times more upset about the Hollywood situation than both of, I wouldn't say Rachel's showing her, dissatisfaction and disappointment in her interview. But, when I look at John's interview, boy, is he just absolutely disgusted.
No, he's bitter. He's bitter.
He is very bitter. And he was bitter with another article that he put out, kind of talking about the topic, when the one that you were talking about, Paulie, with Bardem playing Desi Arnaz.
Yeah, going after another actor. Good job there. Good job.
Wait, catch me up. What did he say? Because I have
what the hell are y'all talking about?
Girl, we did a whole thing. We did a whole thing.
Leguizamo earlier, and
okay, because I have that movie queued up on Amazon Prime for me to watch, because that's like one of my favorite, like
my top
TV
3
shows.
Movies of last year, Lina.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
absolutely. He came after Javier Bardem.
So the
argument that I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The argument that Leguizamo brought up is very similar to the situation that Rachel is going through now, except he was directing it towards Javier Bardem for playing Desi Arnaz. Right, Paulie?
Okay, so
I have no
Johnny,
idea.
there was a little bit of kickback when Bardem got cast, because there's a community within saying he's not a Latino, he's a Spaniard, and I'm just like, okay, you hate your conquistadors.
Okay, all right. I get what this is almost analogous to what's going on with the Black acting community in America when they have to go up against British Americans for the same. Okay, all right. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So the movie came, and Javier is getting all the nominations and everything like that. John's not getting anything, whatever. The Golden Globes happen. The next day, Leguizamo calls Javier out, saying he's a white European. Spaniards are not Latino. And it's just incredible, because I'm just like, dude, that's a fellow actor. Like, what's up with your tribe? Is that, what are you bitter about? Because no one saw your movie. What's really going on here? It's just incredible. And, I feel a lot of that, continues in this Academy interview. There's a new series that this guy, and actually the host is pretty good. So far, he's got Leguizamo, and now Almost just came out, where it's just all he's doing is complain about how bad he had it. And I'm like, you had a great career. You're a pioneer. You're still working.
He's done a ton of stuff.
He played Toulouse-Lautrec in Moulin Rouge, John Leguizamo. And
Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. So,
Super
that's
Mario Brothers.
Mario Brothers, thank you.
Tons of shit.
Correct me if
John
I'm wrong, but in the movie, Love in a Time of Cholera, they were in the same movie, because Javier Bardem played the lead actor, and John Leguizamo was his love interest father. Now that I remember that.
So,
yeah,
Fu.
So in that interview, right, in this Academy interview he did, and it came out like last week, he made a statement that he was in a role with Salma Hayek about 15 years ago, and they couldn't give him the part because they didn't want 2 Latinos in it. He says this in the interview, right? And they do a little digging. They find out what movie. The filmmaker comes out and is like, that is completely false. It's completely false.
Dang.
It's like,
It's almost
dude.
like you shouldn't lie where people can fact.
Well, he's lying for virtue points, man. It's just like,
oh Lord. Well, we have a very special
Paulie,
guest.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Tom. Paulie, what do you think about the headline here where it says that her casting as Snow White, we need to love them in the right direction? What do you think about that part of the statement?
Yeah, that's the last minute of this 35-minute interview. Is they use that and educate. You guys don't need to do anything. You guys just need to act and entertain. Okay, you don't need to educate us. I'll tell you what. When you start educating us, then that's when I'll stop paying to go see your.
I missed where they had their teacher's license.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you're gonna love me to. It's like, girl, you're 20 years old. And I was
I
surprised
got
that Andrew
shirts
said
older
that.
than that lady. But we have a very, very special guest in the back. A regular here on Toxic Femininity, because you can't keep him away from the lovely ladies. The one, the only, Cameron Pasha.
Hey.
Hey, comrade, how are you?
It's great to see you, but I'm sharing my space here with a very macho Latino guy, so I'm feeling a little threatened here. I feel a little threatened.
You should.
Sharing your space?
Yeah, I'm always in here.
Excuse you?
Sexy Latino dude
Excuse
here.
you? Who just invited you last week to the count of the hottest Latinas? And that's how you greet
That's
me,
fair.
brother?
That's
Oh,
fair. I
This
wish
is
you
how okay. I'm let me write this down, Latin, on the Rolodex.
you can
My
you
mental
can put that on
Rolodex.
my list of sins. I'm sure Ms. Ziegler also has a list of sins for people. So you can add
Well,
Man.
Renee, Rachel was on your list, right, Paulie?
Rachel Ziegler, no.
She
she
wasn't
didn't
on
make
the top 10 list.
Nope.
Hard rip, Jesus.
No. I think she was on like Rising Artists, which is
Okay.
different.
Not hot enough
She
for
is
you,
rising.
Polly? Damn.
What's up?
I said not hot enough for you, Polly? Damn.
Damn.
It's actually not possible for a Latina to not be hot. It's a correlation. I mean, it just comes.
Yeah. If people are saying battle for the babes, there ain't no battle. You ain't
No, you just
Everyone wins.
enjoy
Yeah.
the atmosphere. You just
We
enjoy
share here.
the
We all
atmosphere.
share.
Yes.
Yes.
Speaking of sharing, we
Battle
have
of
some
love.
super chats that are piled up here that we really, really want to get to before we move on. So we have Mexican Iron Man here for $10. Thank you so very much, my dear. So my skin is about a shade darker than walnut tree, and last year I ordered my birth certificate for a passport. Guess what? I was listed as white/Caucasian, and I was like, what? Upgrade. Ha. LOL.
Caucasian Iron Man don't have the same ring to it.
It sure doesn't.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting, Mike, Mexican Iron Man, that you said that, because I've been having an interesting discussion with people on my Patreon this past weekend about the word white, right? And and there was a conversation actually that spilled over into one of the chats, on YouTube. But whether white is actually a term referring to ethnicity or anything else, and I was like, the way it is used, the way certainly it's been used in America, it's a power term, right? It's a power term. Who is white has changed over the course of the usage of that term. It was initially a term used by sort of British colonists against the Native Americans, and then against the African slaves, and then Greek. You suddenly have Italian and Greeks showing
It's
up.
whoever it's convenient to counter. It's whoever it's convenient to count or not count.
Correct. Yeah. So Greeks, Italians start showing up, and they're European, right? But they weren't the right kind of European for a certain group of people, and so they weren't white, and they had to struggle for almost a century to be accepted as white. I mean, and so I have friends of mine who are Syrian Arabs from Damascus, who are white as white, man. They look Irish, but they're Syrian Arabs. Are they white? Right? Are Syrian refugees considered white? And it's a terminology. And someone said, well, you're utilizing the deconstruction methodology of the woke, where words don't have meaning. I said, I'm going to suggest that this particular word has never had any meaning except power, the way it's been used in our culture. And that's just an objective statement. And you can, the truth is, as Mike has said, he said something he said it in a tongue-in-cheek fashion, but there's truth to what he just said, which is that I've got an upgrade, which is how a lot of people that are not considered at this moment within the white power category see it. I've got an upgrade. And people who are out of it, we saw that with the In the Heights controversy, right? Where someone, the Afro-Latina thing, you have a slightly lighter shade Latina who looks Latina to me, and it's not good enough for someone who feels that they're out of the power structure.
No, there's no winning. Yeah, there's no winning.
Well,
They'll always find something to complain about.
And the truth is, I have a little sister in her early 20s, looks just like Eris of Chaos. Just as fair skinned, dark, with the dark hair, everything.
Good looking chick. Yes.
Good, yeah. And she's like,
and
she's Mexicana, like her dad is like from Mexico, different dad, but yeah, man, yeah, it's a trip, but that's all kind of going away, and thank God,
Well,
Well, don't challenge it. We're almost there. Don't jinx the damn
Well,
thing.
you know, at some point, Lorena, I sent you a piece that's talking about where the Atlantic is now finally talking about race. And maybe
Yes.
this
We're
will
gonna
lead us
get into
at a
that
certain
here.
point.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it
Mhm.
links in to, well, yeah, it's talking about race and it's talking about medical issues, and we're not here to give medical advice to anybody, right? None of us are. But the Atlantic being the ones to start talking about these issues will spill over into entertainment culture. And we'll get to that at some point.
Yep, that's coming up shortly
Okay.
here. But we have to let Polly go. So
Mm.
thank you for hopping in, Polly, to
Hi,
help add to
Polly.
this story. We appreciate your time, and take care of yourself. And check out Latino Slant and Midnight's Edge Espanol.
Every day.
Yes,
Check out this great panel. Thank you, Tom. Lorena. I can't believe it's been this long. I was like,
I
wait a
know.
minute.
We got to
We-
fix that, man.
I'll hit you up. Much love.
Bye.
Take care, sir.
Bye.
Take care.
Then we got Crazy Cat Guy next.
Get this one.
Yes, crazy cat guy for $5. Thank you so much, crazy cat guy. Hail Tom and the panel.
How you doing?
Finally
Hello.
catching a stream live for a change.
Mhm.
Woo!
Kitty.
Damn.
Thank you for
Crazy
that.
cat. Thank you.
That guy is like aliens be like, kill Mary fuck. I told you.
Oh, Jesus.
Ooh.
So we got shark dentures here.
For Eris.
Oh, is it because I'm white? I knew it. All right. Shark Dentures $2.
You're using the power structure on me.
I know, right, Eris? We're the minorities now all of a sudden. Shit.
You know, I don't identify as
Toxic
white.
them not white enough. No, I'm just kidding.
Off albino.
I
Hey,
know.
you know what?
That's
I'm as
funny.
white as you can be. I'm so
Same here.
European.
I'm Irish as fuck,
Goddamn.
so.
I got blue eyes. That's how
And
European
German,
I am.
so-
So Tom, I should send you a YouTube link to one of my favorite channels. I actually support them on Patreon. I'm like a Patreon subscriber to them, called The Mysterious Middle East, which has all these interesting stories about paranormal and ghost stories and stuff out of the Middle East. And they have a very interesting report they did just a few days ago on the connections between the Irish people and the Middle East. And it's documented going back a few thousand years, the Roman era, that people believe that the Irish people were actually descended from Phoenicians and Middle Easterners, and that a lot of the mythology of pre-Christian Ireland is parallel to Canaanite mythology. So you're actually Middle Eastern, buddy.
All right.
Interesting.
He's like, all right.
He's like, cool.
I'll write that
Not
down
white
on my
enough for me,
resume.
man.
Cool.
Too funny.
Yeah.
Too funny.
I got those moves like Jagger from somewhere.
Yeah, it's you whirl like a dervish.
Crazy cat guy for $5. Thank you so very much. Justin Trudeau has his own line of personal line of tanning products. It's been featured in the news.
Well, they'll help out now that he's in the Caribbean somewhere, right? You know, he's
It sounds
like,
crazy,
you
but it's Trudeau.
know, oh,
It's only facial products. I don't know why. It just happens
We're
to be
not-
only facial products.
we're not going to get political on this channel, but I will say it is quite amusing to me to see
Only
Generalissimo
places to
Trudeau going
Yes.
down the path that Generalissimos always end up in
Mhm.
some foreign country tanning on the beach.
With no extradition laws.
Nude.
No,
That's
Lord,
your
I
tanning.
know.
We don't need an image of him nude, man. I don't think his wife even wants that.
Oh, God.
We got Mikey fired in another one here.
Mm.
He said if Paulie's going to be on Toxic, I think we kind of said this already, but go ahead. Whoever's next. I think it's yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Yes, Mexican Iron Man for a $4.99 super chat. Hi, Mike. If Paulie is going to be on Toxic Femininity, he better be wearing heels. Ha ha ha. LOL. I actually pay to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And he did. So,
I
yeah.
would.
See? $5. $5 heels. Let's do it. Come on, Polly.
Eris, this one's for you. Merlin's Id.
Oh, is it it? I've been saying ID this whole
Oh, that's
time.
okay. I used to do that
It's-
before too.
it's
It's,
all right.
like it's Id. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh,
Damn. All right. Merlin's it. $2 super chat. Thank you so much. Hi ho. Hi ho. No work on movies or shows. Da, 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 da. I'm glad I realized that was wrong before.
We'll get to that one for real. Oh, Ariel Koto for $5. Thank you so very much. I hope I said your last name right. I'm sorry if I messed that up. Here's a random, unimportant fact about me. While I look white, I'm Cuban. Plus, Tom Maria Lado Barrio ain't the worst one. Try watching Ruby.
All right.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to check. I'll have to check that
As
out.
long as it's crazier than that, I'm game. That shit just like, I'm like, oh, shit's going down.
And Hillis Mallory for a $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Hillis Mallory. Holla, y'all!
Woo, woo.
I ain't no holler back, girl. I keep telling you this, Phyllis. Ain't happening.
And this one is Eris Twitchy Fingers.
All right,
For
thank you,
$5?
Twitchy Fingers, for $5. I'm mostly Indian. I'm mostly Indian, part black, as you can obviously tell, part a bunch of other things. Caribbean?
Yes.
Caribbean
Mhm.
person. And I've witnessed a lot of colorism in the West Indian community.
That's another one. Mm-hmm.
I mean, colorism. That's what I mean. Linking back to what we talked about in the Heights and the sort of manufactured controversy that one YouTuber decided to give it when they sort of put these people on the spot. But the underlying issue is there, which is, look, I'm Pakistani. Pakistanis range from people in the mountains who are descended from the armies of Alexander the Great, and they have Macedonian traditions still, right? And I've met blonde-haired, blue-eyed Pakistanis from the north, and there are people that look very African who are of Dravidian, Indian descent in the south, right? Full ranges there. And there's tremendous bigotry inside the Pakistani community towards people of different shades, right? People always want to brag about how fair they are, even if they're slightly one shade fairer than you, right? But I think in Mississippi Masala they showed there's that great moment where they said, you're just pissed off with that this is only 1-2 shades darker than that, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's a real issue. The problem becomes when I think that we are trying to get, a lot of people that maybe didn't have a chance at the plate to come up and be able to play at the plate. And the moment that happens, someone comes in and does the colorism argument. Well, you don't have the right to be at the plate because you're not at the right shade. So that's just the flip of that argument. Or
you're not doing enough to help the others like you and all that kind of bullshit. Yeah.
Exactly. And that just damages. Then people are just like, after a while, what happens? People are like, I just want this drama out of my life. So I'm just going to.
Basically the opposite of what Peter Dinklage is doing right now.
Yeah.
Well, Peter Dinklage is like, I made it. Now let's make sure there's no doors on, in entertainment anymore because it's offensive.
Shut the door behind you.
He's cutting out his competition. It's actually very smart.
Hollywood is based on that.
I mean,
cutting out
it is a different. They're talking about somewhat different issues, but Peter's article is very similar to John Leguizamo's article because he was saying the exact same thing, about discrimination that he's witnessed and injustices that he's witnessed. And while it is true that he has witnessed that, he's forgetting about all the other artists just like him who are coming up now, and they just want to work at this point.
I got a news flash for actors. Guess what? Sometimes you get to play a fucking tree. Okay? Like, it doesn't fucking matter. As long as you're happy enough to be a part of the goddamn show, right? Like, just be happy that you're part of the show.
And getting paid.
Right. I mean, sure. So what? Not everybody's going to get to be a part of the show.
And there are stepping stones, in acting. And
especially when you're as short as he is. Yeah.
Damn, Tom.
Well, I want to share one.
Those are actually called apple boxes, I think, though.
Well, I want to give you examples of an example. That's an interesting example of how Hollywood finds a way to still present its political issues and bigotry, even while pretending to be woke. So, for example, I did that show Sleeper Cell, which was about Muslim FBI agent, and Michael Lilly played an African-American Muslim character and really wonderfully. And then after that, there was a lot of shows that came on in the years after that that sort of went back to the old school Muslim terrorist stuff from it was interesting to turn back the clock. But what was fascinating was this: all those producers kept bragging about, well, we're doing authentic casting. We're having Middle Eastern, we're giving more roles. Yes, they're all a bunch of terrorists, but we're giving more roles to the Middle Eastern actors. But then if you looked at it, it was fascinating. And I had conversations with producers about this, even on Sleeper Cell. The good Middle Easterners, the heroic Arabs that were fighting the bad guys, were always cast with Israeli actors. and the villainous Arabs were always cast with Arab actors. And I thought that was very interesting. And it happened every single time, to the point it's like, okay, so you are definitely making sure particular communities are advanced, but you have an idea that if you can't stomach having that Israeli actor play the bad guy, he's got to play the good guy, even though he looks exactly like the Palestinian counterpart, because ethnically they're very similar, right?
Right.
That's why I love Die Hard. Die Hard has diverse terrorists. Well, whoever said
That's
we were
true.
terrorists.
No, they're bank robbers, but whatever, it's good enough. Bank robber terrorists.
And it's a very diverse group, actually.
But that's an example of the kind of sort of woke, complete blinders that the industry has on when it thinks it's being diverse, but it still classifies people according to the person's own prejudices and when making the decision.
Right. Well, we have your Muslim uncle for $4.99. Thank you so much. I hope Sufi Mom is doing well. Let's see. Okay, since we have the civil rights era here and changing of laws, and I believe Hollywood's controlled by the few and powerful, who has been keeping racism in Hollywood?
Well, I mean, it's partly answered by my thing is the old guard that still runs Hollywood. That like that power. I mean, it's just the old guard that's been there for a century, right? And they, it's people say, well, it's this ethnicity or this religion. It's actually shared philosophy. And it's a shared materialist philosophy, right? And if you share that philosophy, you can get into the club of it. And those people like to see themselves as progressives. But at this moment, and at times they were progressive. They really pushed American conversation on race and other issues forward over the decades. At this moment, they seem to be pushing it backwards.
And a lot of times it seems like it's not even necessarily just, white men in general or anything like that doing it. Like we were just talking about with the whole Peter Dinklage thing and the whole like colorism thing. A lot of times, a lot of the competition is what causes, they'll do their best to keep others out of the spotlight. Right. And it's, that, I got to get that role instead. Look at how Idris Elba is brought up for every single fucking role. For instance, it's like, he's not the only black actor out there, folks.
And Tom, you've hit something. There is definitely inter-ethnic, inter-community competition, which is now beginning to bubble to the surface.
Indeed you do. So thank you for that, your Muslim uncle. And then we also have a member chat from my good friend Daryl Brewer, who sent me a lovely, lovely gift this last week. Thank you again for that. But I think Arun is going to have the pleasure of reading this.
Oh, you muted.
Muted.
Mute.
There we go.
Okay. Hey. All right, Daryl Brewer, a member for 2 months and a member for 6 months, Edgelord. Daryl Brewer, fantastic. My family is classified as Heinz 57. If it was rape and pillage, we wouldn't exist. And I identify as a meat popsicle.
I'm surprised they let you say that, but yeah.
Well, I hope I didn't. Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
No, you're fine. It just, we got to keep it on the DL with those kind of words here. But like, I'm surprised they even let him send that through.
@P3.
Yeah, they
coded
it.
I didn't want to say R at P3.
I gotcha.
Well,
we usually call it dolphin love here, but yeah, that's it.
So let's have a safer way to address that. There's I'm filling out on my Patreon. I do a monthly Q&A, people of certain level of the Patreon get to do a Q&A, and I'm just filling that out right now. And one of the questions was about cultural appropriation, which I just actually answered. And it's cultural appropriation. I am of the opinion that all culture is meant to be fluid. It is by nature appropriate. All culture comes from somewhere else. It
usually does.
We would derive from something. Human beings originate from a variety of groups that keep changing and growing, and we learn from each other. And efforts to prevent cultural exchange, which through the term appropriation, are actually meant to divide people. They're meant to create hostilities. They're meant to limit understanding. There was, I believe, it reached such a silly thing, which a few months ago, I believe some well-known chef or TV chef had to apologize because she was white and she was making Korean food, and and she had to apologize.
How dare she?
She was appropriating. It's reaching that level of silliness, but they're here. Here's a woman who appreciates Korean food and is promoting it to her viewers to go out. You have never tried kimchi? Try it. Here, I'm going to show you how to make it. Right? This is a wonderful thing, and what it does is at a certain point it gets to a place where we don't remember where something originates from. Right? We don't remember that, the numbers that we use are Arabic and they originally were Middle Eastern, and that came
exactly.
from India. The Arabs took it from India, the numerical system, put it in the Arabic notation, and that notation is our notation.
Well, on the other side of it, kind of going along with what Daryl's saying here is, look, yeah, there was a lot of war and pillaging and dolphin love in history, but guess what? From that sprung bigger, better civilizations, which got us here, that built technology. It's like, it's just kind of the way nature goes. It's not even humans alone, right? This is in almost every layer of nature.
It's evolutionary.
All animals, everything. It's just the way shit works. And I get it, but we're actually at a point in our society where we can be comfortable enough to take care of the weaker individuals and those who can't take care of themselves. And we've reached that point. And for some reason, these people who are in this comfortable bubble are the ones who are screeching the loudest. I don't hear people on Twitter going, yeah, I live in this third world country and I can't even afford to feed my kids, kind of shit. Right. But yet the people who are screaming the loudest are the people who have the biggest silver spoons in their mouths and have the least to bitch about. And it's just, it gets revolting after a while. But anyway, yes. I don't know if anybody has anything else to say to that, but yeah.
I mean, they're bored. We're in a generation
that is a big part of it.
Hit a point where we haven't had like a super big overarching war like World War I, World War II, and whatnot.
Vietnam,
and we're kind of finally in that generation that's starting to reap the benefits of all that hard work, the previous generations have done. And as a result, we're bored until you have people that are just like literally cosplaying the fact that they're
trying to create a revolution that's already happened. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And so they're bored. It's just they're bored and they want conflict. But it's like, I don't think it's like there's no way that you have any understanding of how bad that conflict is. Or else you wouldn't be wanting it. You would just enjoy the more peaceful time that you're living in. Right?
Yeah, and just to kind of add on to what Eris is saying, it's like when you have a lot of, I will say it, yes, a lot of like woke Black people out here who will talk and cry racism out of everything. It's like, no, I don't think you remember or even know or even read what it was like to live in a racist society, like say circa Jim Crow era. My grandfather would tell me crazy stories of things that happened, to him and how he had to navigate his life. He didn't wake up every day thinking, oh God, it's racism. All right, I can't live my life. I can't do whatever. He's like, no, I had a family to feed. I had, to go to work. I had a family to provide for, a community to support. Yeah, there's racists out there, but you know what? They're not holding me back. We got other things to do. And the society eventually changed there. But it was much more dangerous then.
Absolutely.
Than it is now. And I think they think they just want to invent stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I heard the same thing from people too, and it's kind of disturbing to think that a lot of these kids, if they actually did face true racism, they wouldn't even know how to deal with it. And I don't even think they realize that true racists don't really go out of their way to be racist. 9 times out of 10, they're usually racist out of complete ignorance, or it's just something happens to come across their path. It's not like they're waking up in the morning going, how can I make Black people's lives worse today?
They avoid it. Usually, for the most part, they'll avoid it.
Exactly.
You don't see at KKK meetings them fighting Black people.
Okay. As a friend of mine who comes from, ancestrally from sort of the Appalachian, poorer white communities, right, said that, the upbringing that he had to overcome was that the racism being pushed on by his grandfather and father, because it's like, look, if you're not better than Blacks, boy, who are you better than, right? You're a poor white Appalachian guy who society looks down on. If you can't feel better than Black people, you at the bottom of society. So pick somebody and feel better than them. I mean, that's where a lot of racism comes from. It's a need to feel some sense of value by
superiority.
Yeah.
And it usually comes from a place of inferiority. Yeah, exactly. Ben Wade, the gunslinger, is next here. I believe that is Eris. Who's
Okay.
next?
It's you.
Ben Wade, the nice gunslinger, not just any gunslinger. He's a nice gunslinger. $5 super chat at Toxic Feminine Fem. Did we just toxic? I don't
Yeah.
know what I'm doing. Toxic Fem
Toxic
and
Fem.
Midnight's Edge. Can we start a crowdfunding to get a real studio? That is a real studio. What do you mean? That is a real studio.
That's her
Yes.
studio.
By YouTube standards, it's a big studio.
She has better lighting than me. What do you mean? I got a damn lamp from my living room in here just so that you can see my face. What do you mean?
All YouTube studios are like the TARDIS. They're actually bigger than they appear. Right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. This might
You
look
step
like
inside,
a
they're
little
bigger than they
corner.
appear.
He continues to say we need to get her all out of that beauty closet. Well, I mean, maybe we get her a green screen, but I don't know if that really add much to the mix or not.
I'm used to that background now.
Yeah,
I'm used
I
to
don't know.
that
It doesn't
space.
I
bother
like
me.
it.
Thank you, Ben
Oh.
Wade, the nice gunslinger. That's very
He's
sweet.
adding to it though, so we'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
Then we got Chad here next. I believe that's for you, Lorena.
Chad Ruperine. I hope I said that right. For $5.
I say it Rupnerine, but it's probably wrong.
Oh, okay. Ruperine. Okay, for $5. Thank you so very, very much. Is it just me, or is a lot of this woke stuff just cover for racists to be racist? For some, yes, and it's excused.
I'm tired of people just saying it's woke and therefore I'm not going to watch it. And it's not, and I think that people have different definitions of woke, what it means and how they apply it. That shouldn't necessarily be the sole reason why you don't watch something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For me, if it does have a message, fine. But if the story is good, I'll watch it. Even if, the message they're giving, I could care less about. If the story is great and I enjoyed it, that's the most important thing to me. For me, woke is when they give a message, but there's no story behind it. And the story behind it is shit. And you're like, I just spent all this time watching this and they just told me that, I there's something wrong with me and everything I ever watched before was garbage and needs to be repaired. And, I don't know my own self, that's woke to me. But everybody has a different definition. Woke isn't necessarily mean diverse.
No.
So, I've seen people say, I'm like, what's your reason for calling it woke? Well, look, it's centered towards women. I'm like, that doesn't necessarily mean it's woke though. So I think a lot of people have different ways of using that to say they just don't want to watch something or they don't like it. They can use whatever they want to, but it shouldn't be something that they use for a reason to say that, they don't want to watch it because a specific ethnicity or a specific gender is in it.
I think, to be fair, I think Chad's actually, I could be wrong, but I think Chad's actually saying that those who are injecting the woke stuff are actually trying to cover up for their own.
That's
maybe they are too.
racism.
That's
Maybe they
that's
are too.
exactly how I read it. Because with
Yeah,
just like
there's two ways.
go ahead, Cameron.
I
But
think
there's two ways.
that he makes a good point with that too. And as far as I'm concerned, while it may be true that they may be covering their own racism, one thing I can say is that as far as I'm concerned, they're just doing it so that they can look a certain way to others, like I don't honestly believe
Well,
that
that's just it. It's like being woke in and of itself is kind of racist, right? Because you're covering up for you're trying to pretend that you're doing something better to cover up for the fact that you have not been doing something you feel like you should have been doing all this time, and it's just pandering in the end. It's not really anything genuine. So I guess
we've hit this interesting spectrum that I like to talk about, which is what this super chat is talking about, the racism behind the people that often present what we would call woke material. But the other end of the spectrum, which I've been talking about more and more, is the people who decide to label something woke and say, I'm not going to watch it because they actually have a personal agenda about the material. And they say, well, it's woke. I'll give examples like the 355. I actually liked that movie. I enjoyed it very much. It was a fun spy movie. It failed miserably at the box office. And then I wrote on my Patreon, I think people should go check it out. And people did check it out from my Patreon. And they wrote back saying, it's actually a pretty fun movie. And a woman wrote to me today saying, I finally saw it. And it's a fun movie. And it isn't woke. It's just women kicking butt, but they're not all powered. They make a lot of mistakes. Their femininity is used by the bad guys to outsmart them, right? So they're not shown as being men in dresses, right? They're very feminine women. And that's both their strength and their weakness. And some people are like, well, I'm going to assume it's just another one of these all women power things. They didn't bother to see it, but they missed out on something. The same thing with In the Heights. I was under the misperception that it was a movie that was promoting some kind of ethnic thing about Latinos in New York. And then Paulie said, no, you got to go watch it. And then I just fell in love with the movie. It was one of my favorite movies last year. It's a universal movie. As an immigrant, I got it. Someone who's been here for 4 generations will get it, because it's about finding who you are in a world that's rapidly changing. Everyone understands that. And so, but a lot of people didn't go see it because they're like, wow, it looks woke to me, right? So, and then when they hear it's not woke, well, I still want to go see it. So what's that about?
Well, it's the real tragedy of this stuff, right? It's like these people who will insert, like Batwoman. Batwoman's a great example, right? Season 2 of Batwoman, where it's like you just you're starting to get people to associate non-white or non-male with woke, and that is horrible. And that's a complete opposite thing that you're trying to do. So, like those movies, I didn't see them. I did watch Halloween Kills. That was great. I don't know.
I
But,
did enjoy that.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's part of the byproduct is, unfortunately, it's causing a knee-jerk reaction to anything that is female-driven or
minority-driven.
Poisoning the well.
And again, you know, Cameron, to go back to the 355, I don't blame a lot of people who are still like, oh, I don't care if it's woke or not, I'm done, because it's not their fault. It's the studio's fault for presenting it as such, right? And we saw that. I feel like a lot of these other films have suffered greatly because of that. And we've had a few that have not been woke in the least, where I will at least concede with you on Scream that it is not woke, but I have other issues with it as far as how it's speaking to the fans. But that's a totally different situation and scenario. But it's in that, still falls in that category, just because it muddies the line between what certain fans do believe and want, and you know what I feel like it's calling toxic fans who can't get past the first film, which I feel is a huge fallacy. But that's a totally different conversation to have than what we're talking about here. But like no, like we've seen a lot of films where they have gone against the grain lately. We've got some stories we're going to jump onto here next that are speaking to this, especially when it comes to Sean Penn and the other article that Cameron brought with him. But yeah, we got this Adam Wolford message right here that he tweeted an image to go with. I don't know who's next in line here to read.
Before I read it, Tom, I just wanted to say that the other interesting thing to add to support what you were all saying is see how important those advertising campaigns can be. Like through the 355 film, where when I saw those dresses, I still don't like the way it looked. And it's very interesting because, you know, when you see a film, sometimes in whatever context it is, you have a certain standard in your mind and you're thinking, I want it to be more glamorous. I want it to look a certain way. They're in a casino. You know, it really affected us. I mean, it really put a certain image in our mind that the movie was not what we couldn't really identify with it or connect with it just from the advertising alone. In some cases, their poster was sort of like black and white. And it showed the women, they all looked really great, but it's still, for me, I wasn't going to say, I want to go see that film. And so, you know, I don't know how much they're spending on these advertising campaigns, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. But, you know, this one just didn't hit the mark for me. And, you know, I think that they're going to have to kind of look at these campaigns and really, you know, kind of adjust what should be expected. I felt the same way about the Eternal campaigns, especially their first trailer, where it just didn't grab me. And then when they came out with the second trailer, it was like, oh, I get it now. Now I understand what this film is about. And I'm incredibly interested to find out more. So, you know, perhaps there's been a disconnect just even in the advertisement of some of these films, maybe because they were afraid to put certain things in the advertisement in the trailers or in the photographs. They've been told that, you know, we can't have these leading ladies and things too sexy. You know, these are all sorts of things that I wonder about. But it did affect me wanting to go see the film. And I think, you know, that's kind of a very interesting observation to make.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I'll add to that very insightful comment there is that I think marketing departments are behind the curve of the rest of the industry. The industry, you can argue, may still be behind the curve of society, but of the different departments and industries, I think marketing departments are still thinking it's partying it like it's 2017, right? and they haven't really. Maybe I'm hoping in the next year various political and business changes will force that. But I do think there needs to be cleanup of marketing departments. I think storytelling departments are catching up to where reality is. Marketing departments seem to not, because they're so tapped into the Twitter world and all this stuff. That's an illusion. That's not reality.
Right.
As Dave Chappelle
Don't
said,
tell them that. You'll break their hearts. Don't tell them Twitter's not real.
Twitter's not real.
And so that's going to be the major issue. And I think as economics start pressuring these studios, they're going to have serious talks with the marketing people saying that this is not, if you think you're going to get people by catering to a particular crowd on social media, we haven't seen the evidence of that over a few years now. So maybe we should readjust our approach.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's grab this super chat, and then we'll get to the other news we've got here.
Yes. Adam Wolford for a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Adam Wolford. We do appreciate the super chat here. So after Peter said what he said, now the dwarf community has come out and put him on blast. And Chad Warwick Davis said, "Shut up."
That's such
And he
a
had
good
a
meme.
nice meme to go with that.
I love this.
But did Chad Warwick actually post this? Did he post this himself?
I don't think so,
but somebody supports Mr. Warwick.
Somebody put it together. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's a work of art.
love that. I love that. I got to meet Chad. I met Warwick Davis.
Yeah.
At a con. He was such a cool guy.
He's impossible to dislike. He's like infectious, you know? And, I know he's done a ton of roles through the years. So, it's very interesting to see it's unfortunate. Honestly, it's unfortunate that Peter has this point of view because it's hurting him, I think. I know he's entitled to his opinions, but I think it's hurting him. And honestly, I think he's wasting a lot of his time even focusing on this right now.
Yeah. Do you guys remember there was an X-Files episode that was very creepy, but there was a little person who was Indian. There was this whole thing where I think it starts off in India and it's like in this train station, and suddenly there's this character who's being essentially, followed by this Indian little person. It's very creepy, right? It's a really scary scene. And it's like this, it's like almost like the little person's actually like a demon in the form of the little person, right? And and then I was at like a event, a friend of mine, Pakistani friend here in LA, through a couple of years ago, and there was that actor. Turned out he was a Pakistani actor who was a little person. And and he was a sweet, sweet guy. And he's still living off the glory of being this major episode of X-Files 20 years ago, right? He didn't get a lot of work as an actor, but that one gave him his lifelong recognition. And, you could say, here's this guy, and it's disrespectful to little people that he plays essentially the supernatural figure that's a scary bad guy, whatever. It plays into stereotypes that people have to be afraid of what is different. But he was really good at playing a creepy, little person that might actually be like not human. He was really good at it. And he gave us this gift of his art.
Exactly.
And the X-Files was a big show. I mean, millions upon millions of people watched that. Even after it went off the air in syndication, so many people watched that show. It was fun. And they had movies, right? They had one or two.
Yeah, they had a couple movies.
It has quite a legacy, and a lot of writers tried to capture whatever it was that the X-Files had done at that time, and recreate that magic that was on there. So that's great to be part of a legacy like that.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we are going to get to this article that Cameron said, and this blew my mind, because this is coming from The Atlantic, which is a very, I'll say, like left-leaning publication, kind of like The Economist is, these days. But
it's between The Economist and The New Yorker. It's playing that.
Okay.
Space. It's playing that space, right? Yeah. So so just a little background on this article. I've met the author before, Shadi Hamid. He's a Pakistani American guy. I think he's probably, and he even admits in the article, he's probably closer to the more traditional Muslim like I am. I'm very traditional. He's probably a little bit closer on the scale to that, but he talks about there's a lot of progressive values that he does have, but liberals are making it difficult for him. And the reason this article is about health issues and about how, various states have apportioned healthy life-saving treatments based on we're going to give this to BIPOC people, and that they're going to be treated as a special case, like an above 65, and white people who need it going to be back at the bottom of the line. And so it's about health issues, right? But what's the interesting about this article is he's talking broadly about where we've gotten to as a culture, where people have gotten to a place where they can say, you don't deserve to be in, equal in line for health-saving treatment if you are not of this ethnicity. You are further back on the line. So this general concept of white privilege, which has played into a lot of the woke conversation in Hollywood, has now reached a place where individual human beings' lives are at stake. Wait, so I'm not just going to be in line based on when I applied for it or what my situation is. I'm going to be reshuffled based on my ethnicity. I mean, what is that? And so my life is at stake, is less important because of my ethnicity in a very practical way. And he talks about that broadly, about what does that mean for culture, and that we've gotten to a very dangerous place where theoretical ideas about white privilege and about minorities that have been part of the discourse have now led to a place where society is facing life and death things. Society is beginning to break down, is his point. If we actually start implementing these philosophical ideas that were a lot of hot air that academics have been using. And on the Hollywood level, even though it doesn't address Hollywood specifically in this article, that's where we've seen the breakdown of storytelling. When you took stuff that in the course of my career, for at least the first half of it, it was just hot air, people saying all this hot air stuff, right? About the various progressive values they believed in, while their own actions did not reveal that in their private lives or whatever. But then in the last several years, there was an actual effort to reimagine storytelling as this lecturing, hectoring thing that Urim was talking about, and that's to the detriment of storytelling. But what is fascinating is this critique of wokeism as now a threat to society is in the Atlantic, which is largely the mouthpiece, or at least the mantelpiece for the Hollywood elites of the coasts, New York, California, San Francisco, Los Angeles, all that stuff. And this is a shot across the bow from a place that I think it's meant to be seen by those people.
I've been watching MASH, like the show that was on in the 70s. And it's so weird because as you're talking about, people being put in lines based on race, segregated based on race, for what, for medical treatment and whatnot. It's just like, you think of that show that was on air, that was, that was well known, very popular. That was in the 70s. We have flung ourselves backwards so far. They made fun of people that we're doing that, because it takes place during the Korean War.
50s, and so let's use humor to show how silly these people are for their presumptions.
Exactly. It was just like, a good example is when this guy didn't want any blood that was from a black person because he was afraid it was going to make his blood dark, because he was under that kind of that mindset. And so what they did is that they got this stuff to make his skin start turning tanner and darker. To mess with him, be like, oh, well, now you're getting darker, right? So like, oh, but you're the same person, yeah? So it doesn't mean anything, right? The color of their skin doesn't mean anything, right? And he actually learned, and he kind of got over that a little bit. And then I hear that stuff, and I'm just like, man, this show was from the 70s. Again, the 70s. We have just flung ourselves so far back that...
Well, Eris, you hit a very important point. The 70s was, and I've said this to Lorena in the past, the 70s was this pivotal moment where we actually finally started having real, honest conversation of a lot of stuff. You had things like Archie Bunker, you had things like the Jeffersons that really shook up stuff, right? You had Good Times, all that stuff that really shook up conversations about where we were as a society. You had the rise of Roots, all of those things. And 40 years, approaching 50 years later, it's, it's amazing.
Years this year.
Yeah. It's amazing how far back we are going by the people that are pretending to be progressing society forward. And it's literally this regression backwards to this very, very ugly place that has divided all of us. And it's as if we put all the effort to solve these problems so that somebody can go, well, I need to solve a problem. There aren't that many problems left, so I'm going to recreate the old problem so I can solve them.
Yes,
it's absolutely insane. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I do like how the author chose to talk about the comparison of racial disparities and causation as it relates to correlation.
Mhm.
And how, you know, racial disparities is something you see in the news all the time about how specific ethnic groups are not getting the same amount of care, the same amount of time with the doctor, everything under the sun. But, you know, the idea that you can go ahead and take that same premise and apply to other types of situations, it doesn't always work that way. You know, a racial disparity is an unfortunate situation. And, you know, many can argue that it may be due to racism, but there are other factors involved in a racial disparity as well. And so now what's happening is that they're kind of using these parameters to say that one person deserves care over another. And it's not scientifically based. You know, it's like there's no triage in this premise. It was just something that somebody personally feels is important. And, you know, I think what's interesting about this is that hospitals are actually making these decisions this way. Now, I don't know how or why they started to do this. You know, I'm actually, you know, very surprised from reading what was in this article of how widespread these behaviors are. But, you know, eventually someone other than this gentleman who wrote an incredible article about it, they're going to come out with more research papers about this. And, you know, maybe it'll affect funding in hospitals. And after that happens, you know, they might even be sued for things like this. You know, if someone has worse health problems than another person, usually the person who is in dire straits or in greater medical need is the person who's supposed to get that care. And if they're finding that that is an issue, that the disparity is due to, you know, these rationing ideas taken from another type of idea altogether used to make medical decisions, you know, a hospital could be sued over this sort of stuff. You know, I think what's also interesting is that just recently they were talking about a gentleman who was on it was either a heart transplant list. And it was very interesting. He was on the list. He's been on the list for many years. And unfortunately, he had decided not to go ahead and take a specific type of treatment, you know, for, let's say, the worldwide pandemic. And he was removed from the list of people who could accept a heart transplant donation. And I thought to myself, well, you know, there's different reasons why people don't get this thing and you know, do and don't get it. But, you know, you're on the list. And once you sign that paperwork and you're on the list, that's your health at that moment. So you should be judged by your health at that moment. If your health has not changed, you're still healthy. There's no reason why you shouldn't get the heart. But they decided to, on their own volition, to say, well, this person hasn't gone ahead and taken something additional that we thought he should take, and therefore he's not entitled to get the heart. And I thought to myself, of all the decisions, of all the places you can make this decision, what a profound effect it has had on this man's life. You know, this was like one of those medical decisions that I think a person would say is a special case. But even there, it's kind of going to a place where, you know, you wouldn't expect someone to be turned down for that reason. You know, and so I think it's very interesting because I personally think that premise was kind of applied to that special situation. You know, he needs that heart. And, you know, the next person isn't almost the exact same amount of health as he is. In fact, he's the first on the list, but he was bumped because of not getting that, you know, that shot, let's say. So, you know, we're seeing things that I think we wouldn't normally see if it had been 5 or 10 years ago. If he didn't have that, he still would have gotten that transplant.
So, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I want to bring this back to Hollywood. So the linkage, I'm going to bring it the way I'm going to try to bridge these very important points you've made, because there are parallel issues that the industry is facing right now. Is the idea of the contradiction of universal values and delineation discrimination. So the interesting thing in the medical field is over the last decade, we've been told universal healthcare is a moral thing, right? And it's something we need to establish. And now we're reaching the place the same people that call for universal healthcare are saying universal healthcare except for those people, right? So it's an interesting thing how the pendulum is now swinging by the very people that called for that. So the parallel, the linkage now to Hollywood is the same thing. The usage of universal language of we want to be inclusive, That's a universal language. Want to include everybody, right? Except for these
Right.
guys. Except for these guys, right? And we're going to start pushing these guys out. And so now the linkage of where this article guides us to in Hollywood is, and it also to refer to the chat that Tom, I believe it's Tom, one of you put up on the air, Antoinette from one of our chat here talked about that this Atlantic article lost 1,000 lawsuits. I think we've spoken about in the past here that there's been a growing, yes, thank you. There's been a growing anger in Hollywood. I can speak from this from personal experience in the screenwriter community that now screenwriters are, not getting hired for their work. It's specifically white male writers can't get work. It's actually very hard to get hired because of very specific quotas. So we're talking now again about triage, right? Now they have a limited number of jobs available in Hollywood. And so instead of apportioning them towards the best person who can write this show, it's now becoming, it doesn't even matter if you can write this show. You need to be of X, Y, Z. We need to have percentages that need to be quoted in the room, and we need to exclude this group that has historical privilege. That's the idea. And the damage that is now happening in Hollywood is that the quality of the writing is going down, and this is now being discussed openly. I believe I've mentioned that there was an article that came out just a few weeks ago that was all about. It was on this blog of this conservative writer, but exploded all over Hollywood. Barry Weiss, who used to be at the New York Times, she left because she felt they were not open to ideas. And Barry Weiss put this article out where she quoted screenwriters who went public, including friends of mine who I talked about it. They went public with their names to talk about the discrimination against white males and the growing anger. Because I have a friend of mine who's a screenwriter who is a white gay male. And he cannot get work right now. He has not worked in 2 years, and he's been deprived of multiple projects where he had black partners, black directors, black actors who loved his script, and the studio said, "Get rid of this guy. We're taking the script." And the black directors couldn't save him. They tried, and so now he's like, "I can't pay my mortgage," and the only reason it's being denied is I'm not the right person to write this urban script, right? The black director thinks I'm the right person and loves my work. A major class action lawsuit is going to come in Hollywood. That's the linkage between what we're talking about. This is going to get to a place where it's going to erupt in legal conflict, and perhaps it needs to.
And I would agree with that, because reading through this article, one of the points that the author makes is that you folks pushing this woke nonsense and with this particular worldview, it's no longer in that realm of just ideology. Now it's affecting real people and affecting their lives. And there's going to be pushback because of that if you don't pull back on this what's going on here.
Another thing that's very interesting about this is sort of like this order of operations that takes place whenever you have treatment in a hospital, or, when you're undergoing some kind of treatment at a facility. Now, perhaps it was done a specific way according to, the priorities of your health. Well, from this article alone, we're seeing that that's not the case anymore. So now the individual person has to be the person who prioritizes their health. You cannot trust the system anymore, in a sense, to make those decisions that would be best for you. And so that's a very precarious situation for individuals to be in, especially if they are in a situation where they require a lot of care, a lot of clinical care.
So the hope that comes in, because it's the Atlantic and because it is a cultural icon, all my sort of snooty Hollywood friends, have it on their table in their homes, right? They'd like to show off, like they have the New Yorker there, they've got the Economist,
glossy cover.
They'd like to show off that they're in the club, right? They're in the club of the right thing. Well, this is beginning to challenge what the right thing should be for that club. And in some ways, the very fact that this even got published means that there's a part of the editorial board that thinks this is where their readership already is. Their readership includes my white gay friend, who is quite liberal on many issues, but feels now he's being discriminated against, right? So this is a market reaction.
This is why I love having you come on, Kamer, because you kind of help us connect the dots between which particular trades will publish certain articles and not others.
Yeah. because it's a choice. I mean, you don't want to, on a practical business thing, you don't want to alienate your readers, right? Or at least people are beginning to learn that in the media when they're
Well, that's
stuff that the audience don't want, right? So and so now people are like, the practical business thing is, if you're the New Yorker, you're probably not pushing, a lot of really conservative viewpoints, right?
Mhm.
That's
Right.
not your primary audience base for that. But when the New Yorker starts publishing critiques of liberal economics and things like that, it suggests that it's felt that its audience base has shifted and is more receptive or even demanding this kind of analysis. It's happening here at the Atlantic. And, we had this situation with Star Wars last year when the Atlantic did this, as yet to me, still inexplicable article, suddenly out of nowhere proclaiming that Jon Favreau is the future of Star Wars. And the Atlantic generally doesn't do a lot of entertainment commentary and about all the failings of Star Wars and how Jon Favreau is coming in to really fix it. I was like, this doesn't look like a naturally evolved article from within its audience space. So I had to ask questions as to why it was being presented. I have a similar feeling with this. This is being presented as a signal to the liberal elites of New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco that maybe it's time to rethink how we're approaching race, which can be translated to Hollywood as well as medicine and other areas.
And there's also a political pressure because we're talking about billions of dollars here that are being directed into different places now. And, now that they've seen the bankrolls coming in, they're giving out free, pills and tests and things. I think there are a lot of organizations out there that may say, well, this isn't right. And the way that the money's being distributed is not the best choice for the American people. So, that might be something else too. I think a lot of watch groups and groups that do that, where they watch where the money is going in a sort of clinical spending, are noticing things like this. And there's a lot of money at stake. Going ahead and getting a program at a hospital, especially at a time like this, where many hospitals are complaining about poor funding or not getting the funding that they need to treat patients. This could make or break an institution.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of leftists and some things you did not expect to actually come from them, Kamar, do you want to switch over to the other article, or do you have one last point about this?
No, I think we've all really covered this very well. But the other article was something that was sent to me by one of my Patreon members, and I found it very amusing. And I said, let me present it to Lorena.
I almost dropped the phone. I'm like, this is a joke, right? This is Photoshop.
This is the Onion, right?
Right.
Yeah.
This is the Onion. Yeah. Sean Penn says American men have become feminized, blames cowardly genes.
I always think of the Wizard of Oz for some reason, cowardly genes, because of the cowardly lion. I don't know.
Like Sean Penn, he, for some reason, especially with how he's been in Hollywood, for some reason I thought he would be the last person, to come out and say something.
Well, it's almost as if he was asked to do this, right? Because the other thing is the news, when this got put out there, various news agencies reached out and his representatives declined to comment. In another era, which maybe even 6 months ago, his representatives would have dropped him, right? As happened with Tina Carano, UTA,
right?
Dropped her. If you were seen as being a problem, we had blanking on the great gentleman, great actor who was dropped by his agency, conservative actor. He's very pro-Trump. I'm blanking on him now. One of our great actors. There aren't that many pro-Trump actors out there.
I know. I'm for some reason I don't know why. I don't know why I'm blanking on who he
got married at the plantation.
In?
It's not him.
No, that was Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was in Contact. James Woods. James Woods.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that should have been, yeah.
So James Woods was dropped by my current agency. I'm at the Gersh agency, and James Woods was represented by the Gersh agency, which is the oldest agency in Hollywood right now. And he was dropped by them because he's being very vocal in his support of Trump when he was president. And they simply just sent him an email saying, we're just not comfortable having you as a client anymore. And this is a big actor who's won a lot of awards, a big part of our culture, right? And he's still out there very vocal about his views and all of that. But it's very interesting. Mr. Penn put this out there. His rep simply declined to comment instead of going into, at the very least, damage control mode, which would be like, his views do not represent our agency. All of them are trying to cover their butts right now. So I have an intuition that at the very least, it's not some conspiracy people because Sean Penn was summoned into the room with a cabal, right? It's more like some powerful friend of his said, hey, maybe Sean, maybe you might want to talk about this because, you're sort of seen as a macho guy, right? But you're also a liberal guy who's out there fighting for the refugees and going out there and saving people in floods. So maybe you're the one, maybe having Clint Eastwood is not the right person to get this message, but maybe you're the one to do it. It feels like he was encouraged and others were told, back off, let him say it, because I need to get a movie made and I need to not have my characters destroyed by this nonsense. It feels a little bit like someone told him it's okay to do this.
Or he smoked a lot of weed and then did an interview.
Yeah.
They're not mutually exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive.
No, the next
did this. Sorry, let me cut you out just a little bit more context. It turns out that there was this interview apparently that he was doing, and his daughter was there with him.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, this movie called Flag Day that he was directing, and it turns out that she was none too pleased about her father's remarks about this.
Well, I mean, there's always that sense of, I didn't see that coming. But the thing is, if some people are questioning the chat whether he's really macho, he's certainly got the reputation of being an aggressive gentleman. He's certainly in your face. He's been accused of being rather in your face with various people in his life. So he's not seen as a passive, docile person, right?
An aggressive person, I think.
Yeah, with a macho is
I would agree with that.
But he's certainly out there. I'm Sean Penn. You can't tell me nothing, right?
He is out there, yes.
The next thing that I thought about after the cowardly genes, I thought about the only other person I know who said that they had like incredible genes was Charlie Sheen when he was like, I have tiger blood and Adonis DNA. And I was like, that's the other side of someone like kind of boasting about how great.
That also was clearly chemically enhanced, right? I mean, that is definitely
not a pattern.
Normal state of
Oh my goodness!
A pattern of behavior.
But what's interesting is, I mean, again, I want to bring it out. This can look, actors say stuff, actors say a lot of crazy stuff, right? But the fact that this has come out, he's a guy who's been around for a lot of decades. Yes, he might be ingesting various things, a couple of herbs, this might be going on in there, but he's a calculated guy for the most part. He has had a successful career because he's very calculated about it. He's very calculated about his public image. He's very calculated about his humanitarian public image and all of that, and his support of various really leftist guys out there with Hugo Chavez, right? He's out there, right? And so for him to put this out there and say, it's a pretty aggressive comment, not just about masculinity. It's about those. I mean, it's actually, I'm surprised there's not been yet an uproar from the trans community that I've heard, where he's basically saying who's you're ditching your pants for skirts means there's something wrong with you genetically. It's an interesting thing that he has not yet generated what, let's say that someone like a James Wood had made this comment, he would be labeled as an anti-trans person. I mean, J.K. Rowling was labeled that for much less, right? And yet we haven't seen this uproar. So it suggests to me that this is somewhat engineered. I don't know. I'd love to get feedback on that.
Well, that's my impression, because reading this, I'm just like, holy crap, why isn't, Sean Penn trending on Twitter? Hashtag Sean Penn is transphobic.
It is on Fox News. So I don't know how.
Yeah, but it appeared on the trades. It's in the trades.
Yeah,
it's in the trades, and we haven't seen the uproar.
It was in the Independent. I don't know what leaning the
Independent is a bit right,
middle of the road, right leaning.
It's a little right leaning. It's sort of middle right, center right. Yeah.
But I would think even with this being on, Fox News website, that they would have jumped on that like crazy. Maybe said, they misquoted him and how dare they and all of that, but I've heard nothing.
I mean, the agents just declined to respond to me is a very unusual thing at this moment based on the reactions I've seen with agents. He's panicking, absolutely panicking if someone goes outside the woke or just even the progressive liberal barriers of acceptable discourse. They go into complete damage control mode, and there's just like we declined to comment as if his comment is just within the acceptable range, the Overton window of politics in Hollywood, which means they're trying to redefine the Overton window.
Sorry, I just look at his face and man, shave.
Hard to believe that. Hard to believe that's Spicoli, isn't it? What?
Oh man, just get that shit. Stop. Get that shit off there.
I can't get the cowardly lion out of my mind. I don't know why.
He even looks like it, right? I mean, seriously, my man over there.
But we've got some people in the comments saying, well, this is coming. No, this is not. This wasn't. He didn't. They're saying, well, this is coming from the Fox Independence. This was. They're all quoting an interview he did with some other news outlet, and I forgot which. It'll be in the article which news outlet it was. It was some other news outlet. And my only comment is, yes, it is certain. We're presenting to you that the conservative press has definitely commented on it, but I'm telling you that the trades are commenting on it, and it's appearing on Hollywood sites, but it's not creating an uproar. It's just almost as if it's just water under the bridge with this guy. And that suggests to me an effort to at least expand what is possible to say in this industry. The fact that you can have this appear in the trades and people just sort of move on without 100 comments, calling for his cancellation. These are pretty aggressive comments. J.K. Rowling never said anything near like this.
No.
She said, identify however you wish, love whomever you wish, dress any way you wish, but there's a biological reality to being a woman. That's nowhere near this kind of, you have genetically inferior genes or your cowardly genes if you switch the way you dress in effect. I mean, that's a very aggressive comment coming from this guy who's hanging out with Hugo Chavez and Madero and all those guys, right? So, and it's just I just don't think this was a random guy spouting this guy. This guy's too calculated for that. Everything he does is about his image. So he's being told it's okay to expand your image to this. It's interesting.
Because I'm looking at Deadline, I'm looking at the Hollywood Reporter. I see nothing mentioned about this.
I think there was a piece in the Dollywood Report in the Deadline. I will see if I can find that and put in the private.
Okay.
Because I do believe it was. I mean, something they can't ignore. But the fact that the industry simply just said, "Okay, we're just going to let them put it out there and not really challenging it to any large degree."
Yeah, I didn't see it on the splash page.
Yeah, if one of them, they can't take criticism, right? People who are in the little woke bubble, right?
Yes.
That's why they have that echo chamber, because they literally cannot take criticism or any kind of dissenting ideas against what they believe is the truth. So if this didn't make it outside of, or not outside, but like into their bubble, that's probably why no one's talking about it. In my opinion.
I did find an article. I found there is one in Deadline from January 28th, so it's a few days old. But the fact that this is about 3 or 4 days out and hasn't created a massive uproar, so I'm going to put that right now, Lorena, in the private chat. You can pull that up. Maybe we can see if there's a lot of commentary, but it just hasn't caused any waves. I mean, it's pretty out there. I'll just put in there. So.
They must have buried this sucker because I did not.
There's just 10 comments. I mean, imagine if J.K. Rowling had said this. Would there be 10 comments?
Because I would think something like this, like when J.K. said those, it was splashed at the top of the fold, so to speak, top of the webpage on Deadline. This was nowhere near that.
Oh, he looks way better shaved. I told you, didn't I say? Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's see.
And the comments aren't particularly outraged. It's interesting. People, from my quick scan of the comments, it seems people are like, whatever, old rich white guy is going to say stupid things. I mean, this is an aggressive attack on the entire trans narrative. It's and there's no comment about that. That's certainly something's happening.
Wow, they're warning him he's going to be canceled due to his free thoughts and freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, most of the comments seem to be largely like, Sean can have these views.
Yeah,
but remember, Deadline control, Deadline limit, Deadline monitors. You don't just post and it goes on there. Deadline chooses what it selects to post. There might have been 500 comments here, but they've only chosen to post these.
Moderate it.
They moderate, and so this is maybe part of the intention was to not allow a drama to develop. If you keep very sort of middle of the road, rich old white guy saying rich old white guy stuff, that's not going to create a crusade against him. But a bunch of people saying this guy's a transphobe would. I mean, look what happened to Dave Chappelle, whose entire argument, if those who have watched the special, his entire argument is very simple. He said, he says it in his special. He says, I've never said anything against trans people. I don't have any problem with trans people. I have a problem with white people. And that's Jay. He's like, and he has a problem with white men saying, well, you can't criticize me anymore because now I'm a white woman. Right. And okay, so that's the point he's making. And then we can debate that point. But it was interesting right after that, a white man who has now transitioned into a white woman who was running that African-American comedy show, right, was the one that attacked him. It's exactly the person he says, I have a problem. This is what I'm critiquing, right? So that's the dynamic there. But this guy wrote a hullabaloo for him saying that I have no problem with trans people, I have a problem with white people, and it became this big attack on the trans community. At least that's how it was presented. This comment where you have cowardly genes, if you dress feminine, that's just being let to ride. Something's happening in the industry that they think it's okay, just let that ride.
Yeah. Because lesser people have been canceled for saying something like that.
Or as a man, do you take offense at him saying that men have become quite feminized?
Well, I think there's truth to that. I mean, would I have put it in these kinds of terms? No, but I think there's absolutely truth to where we are culturally, and I think there are ramifications to that. I mean, I think anyone knows that I'm a traditional Muslim. We traditional Muslims tend to have some traditional beliefs about male-female dynamics, right? And that, but my only fascination is I've not heard anyone say this coming out of the leftist club of the industry. I mean, if Clint Eastwood said this, would anybody even notice or care? He says this and no one noticed or cared, which suggests to me that is an intentional part of a narrative shift in the industry, to say it's okay for us to start moving away from the extremes of discourse that have made it impossible for us to make profitable movies. He's being told to tell people it's okay to go back. I've said this for some time. I said in the 2020s, we're going to see the pendulum swing, and we're going to see, it'll be like the 1980s. We're going to see the return to the macho dude. We're going to see the Schwarzenegger types, an alien button, robot buttons, Sylvester Stallone. We're going to see those kinds of archetypal masculine dudes coming back.
Reacher is coming out on February 4th. That's he's very masculine, very macho. That's the archetype you're referring to. I mean, he is the exact definition of what I would put down as that kind of a man. So maybe that's part of what's happening.
It definitely is. And so someone in the chat said that maybe you guys are digging too deeply in this. He's just speaking off the cuff. I agree, he is speaking off the cuff. I'm just saying that in the past, people who have spoken with much more sophisticated, sensitive language on these topics have been treated as if they're speaking with great disrespect. And and so people dig deep into those comments by J.K. Rowling and others and Dave Chappelle to read into them things that I'm not so sure those people are saying. Whereas this guy's pretty clear about what he's saying, and nobody's creating the drama around him that you would expect.
No. Like I said, I'm stunned that it was him who said it, and two, no pushback. So, wow.
Well, there is a shift, and we're going through this moment right now where I think the industry is beginning to figure out what the future has to be, and has to slowly pull itself out of this hole that it has dug for itself in the last 6 years. And to do so while saving face. So I think there's been a lot of calculated media efforts to change the Overton window of what is acceptable, or at least return it back to maybe 2014 levels of what is acceptable discourse, right, in the industry. But they got to do that real carefully to prevent a mob attack.
Absolutely. Oh, there was push.
Okay, great.
Oh,
I'm glad. I'm
see it.
Somebody mentioned in the chat Sandy Newton said something. I mean, I'm not. People did. I'm just saying that the amount of coverage that Dave Chappelle got, days upon days of deadline articles, days upon days, it just never ended. Protests in front of him,
quit and threaten to walk out,
and I mean, so a couple people made some release some things. We don't think he said the right thing. It's not what I would expect it here. It really isn't. So,
Usually with stuff like this, you have people with the torches and pitchforks on Twitter and just
Well,
everywhere.
I'll give an example because again, I hope the value that I can add to channels like Toxic Femininity and Midnight's Edge is that I can give actual examples from my experience, right? So I'll give an example where I think, the industry manufactures outrage and it also restrains outrage when it needs to. So I'll give you an example. A few years ago, there was the Beverly Hills Hotel, which is one of the grand landmarks of Hollywood, was purchased by the Sultan of Brunei, who's the richest man in the world. Brunei is this little Southeast Asian country that has a huge amount of oil, and the Sultan is the leader of it, and he's also a Muslim. And he had passed, and anyone who knows Islamic cultures, just like in the West, whenever you need to sort of rally your people, you'll often take conservative stances, even if you don't actually act on them, right? So he sort of passed this bill, condemning homosexuality in Brunei, right? And anyone who's actually been to the Muslim world, if you've been to places like Indonesia, which is near Brunei, or Dubai, these places, the reality is gay people are actually pretty open, right? That shocks a lot of people when they go there. You go to Dubai and it's, homosexuality is very part of the society. They just don't talk about it. It's like, don't ask, don't tell, but no one's throwing people off of roofs as the stereotype is, right? But he put that out there, even though they weren't actually doing anything, but it rallied his conservative base and everybody. And of course, Hollywood jumped on this and they started, and this was an orchestrated outrage because the average person in Hollywood doesn't know where Brunei is, doesn't care about the Sultan, right? But somebody decided that the trade started an agitation thing where they suddenly you had crowds, hundreds of people demonstrating in front of the Beverly Hills Hotel. You suddenly had all of the agencies put out memos saying that we will no longer hold meetings because that was one of the big places where people get together and do business deals at the cafe, at the restaurant there, right? We won't hold meetings there, and we won't go to the restaurant. They will no longer be acceptable. And I saw that, and it translated into the standard Hollywood. Islam sucks. Islam's a horrible religion. You Muslims suck. I've been through that a few cycles of that. So here the cycle begins again. And then one day they decided to just shut it off. So these protests were going on week after week, and Deadline's reporting them. People standing outside with signs, "End Sharia law." And I was like, and then one day, it was all gone. The crowd vanished, stopped being reported. All the meetings started. So whatever the business political thing behind this manufactured outrage, there was some agenda, probably some competition with the Beverly Hills Hotel and some other backer of the trades. It was those kind of weird politics, right? Something was happening. And whenever that was resolved, the crowd vanished. And now you go to Beverly Hills Hotel, it's as if it never happened. And all the big moguls are there making deals, right? Back in the booths again. Right. And you're like, did this even happen? Where did this come from? Where did it go? It's manufactured outrage. And the fact that there is no manufactured outrage here is suggesting there's a manufactured silencing, in my opinion.
Well, Cameron, you're the insider, so
just my I wish I could be in a room where I saw these machinations. And I've seen them. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let Sean Penn be our spokesman for. Yeah,
but like I say, just even for the casual, observer, what's going on in pop culture, where we're used to, J.K. Rowling being canceled just because she just put some tweet out there, or some actor said something off the cuff, and it's just like, oh no, you're transphobic, whatever. We're used to hearing or seeing that kind of reaction. Then you have this happen, and we're not seeing the blowback as usual. That definitely gets some attention and makes you think something is going on.
Okay, well, Penn started trending on Twitter. I will say this article's been out for 4 days, and no one on this panel had heard of it before, right?
Nope.
So I don't even know who Sean Penn is.
Earlier tonight, yeah. And then when I sent it to Lorena, she's like, "Yeah, Cameron sent that to me." I'm like, "Oh yeah." So I had just seen it earlier today. So.
Okay, so it is something. Some attention is building on it, but it is unnaturally slow for comments of that nature that have been made public 4 days ago.
And still not on the main splash on Deadline. Nowhere near that. Well, folks, we have got some super chats.
Yeah,
and I know
Cameron in about 10 minutes. So I should
so we want to get those for.
Well, this is a nice super chat.
We actually have quite a few here for Cameron. So hopefully
let's go. Okay, so
this is a really nice one, Jeff Robinson.
Yeah, so we have Jeff Robinson for $9.99. Thank you so very much. Look up Jacques Vallée and the connections between UFOs and fairy faith. Little people who live underground or in caves is part of that. Commonalities all over the world.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and within the Muslim tradition, the jinn are often portrayed as taking the form of little people, right? And so it is a common trope, and one can say, well, that's an example of bigotry towards little people. And I'm sure it's been used as such, right? But does that mean do we not have those stories? They're part of the human heritage.
Are genies?
Yes, I mean the English transliteration of genies, it literally is the jinn are an invisible race that lives alongside human beings that can shapeshift in physical form, and often will take the form of unusual things like a little person, right? Like a surprising little person that's there. So, but yeah, so they are part of the Islamic religion. All Muslims believe that there's two races on earth: human beings plus this other magical race that surrounds us, like fairies.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Here you go.
Yes, just some other guy. Thank you so much for the $1.99 super chat. Just some other guy. Cars for another shot at my question. Cameron.
I think it's care for another shot. What is the question? Okay.
The question was, I believe he's one of your patrons and he goes by a Star Wars name. And if you can figure out what that is.
Oh yeah. Well, he sent
$20.
me a DM. But here I gotta tell you, I just received 50 DMs today. So I've forgotten already. He already sent me a DM saying this is me. And I spun it. I'll remember next time. And of course I've already forgotten. So forgive me. Send me another thing, a DM. You forgot me already. But that when you have 200 and we cross the 200 threshold, so we have 200 members who are then sending me DMs all day long. Forgive me, I just forgot. So I can go back and look for it, but I got to keep going with the super chats. So yet again, we lose $20. That's the way it is. We're gonna do this every week, but my buddy, I'm never gonna remember because I've already got 10 other DMs waiting for me on my Patreon right now that I gotta deal with. So just it is what it is.
Eris, this one's for you. Action Com. Love that avatar, man. Love that.
All right. So, have you ever heard about Roddy?
Roddy.
He was an actor. He was a
Roddy.
prominent actor some decades back. Yes.
All right, Roddy McDowell and his illegal movie collection. I'd love to hear your take about Roddy's decision to name names.
This is something new to me.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Okay, this goes back to the early days of VCRs, and before they even had like a rental market and studios were actually releasing movies on VHS yet. Like because video recorders have technically been around since the late 50s, and they've been on the consumer market since like roughly the 60s, 70s, but like the only people who could afford them were, rich people. So like, but film fans who had been trading like, 8mm, 16mm, and 35mm films throughout the years were the first video collectors, right? So there was these companies that would take reels and put them on video, and basically you had a bootlegging operation problem in the early days of VHS and beta, right? Or mostly beta at this time, and Pneumatic was another form of early video. But Roddy McDowell was among some very prestigious people who were busted by the FBI with having a bunch of bootleg movies. And to get out of trouble, he named a bunch of people that were also other actors and people in the industry who had a bunch of bootleg movies too, and the bootleggers themselves. And so he ended up getting blacklisted for the better part of a decade because of it.
Yeah, because he disappeared. I remember that. He was a very big actor for a long time. Yeah.
Everyone knows what happens to snitches. Okay, everyone knows what happens to snitches. We all know.
Yeah.
Why am I having
flashbacks your reaction to that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, well, and he played Cornelius in Planet of the Apes, the original Planet of the Apes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh
so
man.
If you go quick to his Wikipedia, he was around forever.
Mm-hmm.
He
did
played
everything.
In Star Trek Generations. He was the bad guy, right?
No, that's Malcolm McDowell. I think you're thinking.
Oh, that's Malcolm McDowell. Okay.
Yeah, he finally got a break again in 86 or 7, whatever it was, or 85, whenever Fright Night came out.
Yeah, Fright Night. He played the vampire hunter that was a fraud that had to become a real vampire hunter.
Yeah, so that kind of helped him have a little. Yeah, that kind of helped him have a little comeback, and then then he worked pretty steadily up until his death around, I think. Yeah, 98. Yeah, Fanto got it in the chat. But yeah, so for like 10 years though, he was blacklisted because he was.
So these were just bootleg of.
Yeah, they were just
movies.
regular classic movies. There was nothing really in them that would be considered like a problem.
These
It was
weren't
just
illegal movies, as in various kinds of illegal forms of pornography and other
like
horrible
no,
things, right?
no. It was stuff like Superman the movie and Star Wars and shit like that.
Wow.
Like and Wizard of Oz, Citizen Kane, shit like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't know any of this story. I've learned something new. Thank you, Tom. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, because the first actual licensed videotapes were a company licensed a bunch of movies from Fox. I think in the very, very, very tail end of the 70s or early part of the 80s. I can't remember which, but yeah. So when all that started happening, they passed those laws. So that's when he got in trouble. Yep.
My patron member Darth Plato said he was also in Tales from the Gold Monkey, and that's right, he was. That I loved that show. It was only on for one season, and I have it on DVD. But it was sort of this poor man's Indiana Jones in the early 80s, right? On TV, and he was in there. So, all right, we got another one here.
Let's see. Eris, is it you or is it me?
No, I just did
you.
one. I know it was
Okay.
so memorable.
Okay, that is me. Okay. Chad Ruperine, I hope I said that right, for $5. Thank you so very much. Cameron, can you recommend any good movies about the Middle East? Seems like there aren't any of those.
Well, there used to be. I mean, the classic movies, Lawrence of Arabia, the classic sort of traditional magical movies of Hollywood in the 50s and the 60s, or even before, the Arabian Nights stuff, because they didn't have any sense of prejudice towards this culture. They might have seen it as a magical or foreign culture, but they didn't have a negative prejudice towards that. That really started in the 70s. Lawrence of Arabia is really one of the last ones, that really had at least respect for Middle Eastern culture. And really, Lawrence was that sort of crazy guy coming in there and didn't fit into that world. There's a great movie that is the only Hollywood movie ever made about the birth of Islam in English by Hollywood movie, starring Anthony Quinn, called The Message, and it was filmed by Mustafa Akkad. Mustafa Akkad, who created Halloween. The Halloween franchise is Mustafa Akkad. That was his creation, and his son Malik Akkad now continues that. But Mustafa Akkad has two things that he's famous for. He made Halloween, and he made this only ever movie about Prophet Muhammad, which is called The Message. And the way to get around Islamic sensitivities about showing the prophet is that he's never shown, and Akkad came up with this brilliant thing, is it's the camera's POV as the prophet. So all the characters are talking to the camera. It's a prophet looking at everything, and everyone's interacting with him and saying what he's thinking.
Oh, it's
so that's around it. So he's never on. He's the camera. It's his POV.
That's so smart because you can't show him.
You can't show him.
Smart.
Yeah.
Way you get around that. That's clever.
Yeah, it's a 4-hour epic. It's up there, in my opinion, with 10 Commandments as one of the great religion movies ever made, and you can get that on DVD. It's The Message, again, on Amazon. So those are the kinds of good movies. They were made. Hollywood has not made good stuff in a long time because for a lot of political and historical reasons. I've been trying to make good stuff, but they've still resisted. So I'm still working on that. Hopefully I'll be able to announce some very good stuff about that in the very near future, but let's get there.
Okay. This one is yours.
Yes. Craig Lee Talks for a $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Craig Lee Talks. Cameron is a genuine pleasure to listen to.
Well, that's very flattering. Thank you.
Mhm.
I enjoyed this very much, and I've talked to Tom about this, that it's frustrating that a lot of other professional writers aren't willing to come on camera and do this, because there's this weird prejudice in the industry towards YouTube. It's almost like a contempt for it, but this is the best way to interact with our consumers, right? This is, how else are you going to know what the people want unless you're doing this, right? And hopefully with time it will change.
Well, let's see, Eris, I believe this is you, Valiant Renegade.
Damn you, Valiant. $10. Good evening, Toxic Fins, Tom. And it's Cameron, right?
Cameron,
okay.
I was good. I subscribed to you, Eris. You don't even know who I am. I pressed the subscribe button on your channel last week.
I suck at pronouncing names. I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure I said it correctly. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I sometimes forget how to do my own.
It's okay. It's all good. We're all good.
I came just to...
By the way, did we read that? Did we read that chat?
No, I got denied.
Tom, please bring it back, or whoever's doing it, please bring it back.
I hit the fucking thing wrong here. Hang on.
It wasn't me.
It was my fault.
Whatever.
I'm
Valiant.
producing.
Give us
I gotta
another
go
10
back
bucks,
and find
Valiant.
Valiants now. Well, while we're looking for Valiants, we got this.
Yeah, bye, Valiant. Thank you for the $10.
I'll get back to it. I'll find it here. Just give me a second.
You want to read this one, Eris?
Yeah. Ariel, Koto. I'm gonna go with
Mhm.
that. For $5. If you want an abridged version of Ruby, check Funny or Sue's version.
Okay.
And,
All
and
right.
someone in the chat is saying, I don't know if it's meant as a joke or tongue in cheek or as an attack, but I'll take it as fun. But someone in the chat is saying that Cameron used to work at a 1-900, I guess, sex call center. I was like, that would have been a great job. I would have taken that job.
He would have loved that
fun
job. If you know
job.
anything about him, he would have.
I would have had.
We all know that.
But,
Okay.
but Tom can do voices. Tom would have been better at that. He can do voices.
Let's see. Here we go. Valiant Renegade for $10. Thank you so very much. Good evening, Toxic Femmes, Tom and Cameron. I came just to watch Eris dance in her chair.
Yeah.
And
She's
for
doing that.
everyone in the chat, enjoy your evening of hashtag YouTube and chill.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do this because I'm awkward.
Okay, everyone on YouTube's
Well,
awkward.
you're not
we're
awkward.
weirdos. We're
Yeah.
weirdos. That's what makes us interesting.
Mhm.
Valiant was convinced I did it because I was drunk. No. I just do it.
It's just what she does.
Yeah.
You gotta sway with it. You gotta sway. You gotta sway. I get it. So so this is for Karma Pasha, who I don't think is here. So but I will answer it nonetheless.
Adam Wolford for $5 super chats. Thank you so much, Adam Wolford. Cameron Pasha, we are called hillbillies. You are making us sound high class, calling us Appalachian. Most of us can't read and making moonshine.
All I can say is every hillbilly that I've met is a lot more interesting than the colleagues I've been dealt with in Los Angeles. So I prefer their company. So
Not wrong.
Wow.
well, here we go.
Good.
With Marlon
Stop.
Brando, of all
No,
people.
hold on, please.
But which
No.
Marlon Brando? Like
Not Marlon from the Doctor of Island of Dr. Moreau before that.
50 cents for each additional minute.
Can you do Marlon Brando as Jor-El?
I send him you, my only son.
You know how Marlon Brando did that whole scene? He's all with cue cards. He refused to memorize. He's like, no, who I am? I'm Marlon Brando. I'm not gonna memorize a script. So the entire scene of him walking around on Krypton and like you're trying those three guys, sending them to the Forbidden Zone, whatever, and then telling them the planet's gonna go. It's just the camera's walking around and the dude's holding up cue cards the whole time. He did the whole scene in cue cards. Everything he did on Superman was cue cards. And he's such a good actor, you don't know.
You know, that is a form of art. When you can make your laziness like look authentic, like you're trying.
It's like, I'm Marlon Brando. I'm not going to memorize this script. Just put it on a piece of card, hold it up, and I'm going to bring you an A-list performance. And he did.
I unbutton your blouse.
Uh-oh.
Slowly.
I feel assaulted. Jesus Christ.
Well, you know, Shatner's
And
still
I
got the hypnotic voice.
whisper in your ear. I'm going to take you someplace no man has ever been before.
Wow.
I can make some money doing that shit.
You know, Jeffrey Wolf in the chat is saying Cameron is Yul Brynner. I would love to be Yul Brynner because Yul Brynner was probably the sexiest guy in Hollywood history, I think. I mean, that guy exuded manliness. And in Ten Commandments
sounds like this.
Let's put it this way.
Ramses.
I didn't just watch the 10 Commandments just because, yeah, my dad wants to watch this boring movie on television. It was all about Yul Brynner, okay?
I mean, what and you know what he does? He makes Ramses sympathetic. You know, you feel bad for Ramses. When Ramses loses his baby son, to
and
God's
he's
first,
holding him like this, and he's like, just go.
Just go take whatever you want, take everything. I mean, you feel bad for Ramses, and you're like, only Yul Brynner could make you feel bad for the Pharaoh.
For just a moment, and then you remember what his dumbass did for like ever.
So
He was warned like 10 times. He knew.
it's okay. I had a thing for Nefertari, but that's a whole other thing. Nefertari was one of my very first crushes.
Oh,
So that's all.
God, that costuming. My goodness, I
Oh
loved
my
it.
God.
Eris, I think it's you. Miss Mallory.
Hello. Good writing will overcome any woke perception. Yes, yes. Because you can have a, I don't know, woke message in there, but if it's well written and it's like put in subtlety, like with subtlety, then nobody really cares. It's that it's in like subtlety is that kind of an art form in that aspect. But now they're just hitting you over the head with like the propaganda bat. They don't care.
I think that's the difference between allegory and woke. Like you can do good allegories, but once it's like forced diversity and forced this, forced that, just for the sake of being woke, that's a different story. But if you go back to some classic sci-fi, there's all kinds of allegories and parallels you can draw to all kinds of things in the past.
But things you can have progressive politics done directly. Look who's coming to dinner. There's no allegory there. That's a black man coming in a white relation with a white woman. How does the family handle that? And it's really well written. It's really well acted.
Yeah,
and it's got a clear moral stance. But it's not a bad movie, and it's actually manages you to make you learn something without feel like you're being preached at.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point. Propaganda versus
exactly. Even the movie Get Out, people quote unquote call that woke. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch it and I'm gonna make up my own mind. I got so sucked into the story, I was like, I don't care.
So
I'm just like, wow,
on racists in Hollywood.
So
it's a commentary on all these, guys. I voted for Obama twice, but I'm actually gonna suck your brains out, right? Because
we're gonna auction who
watch it with the director's commentary.
You know what? I'm gonna have to do that. I'm gonna have to do that because that was actually good. I was like, wow, I did not freaking see that coming.
I saw that in the theater, and I love that movie. That was so good. I was just like blown away by it. Man, when he goes upstairs and everyone stops talking, I was just like, oh, dude, you're in so much trouble. Run.
When she says,
that's what I feel like when I'm the Muslim guy in the writer's room. The moment I step out, suddenly it's just like everyone's staring at that door.
Yeah.
All right, so we got another one. Bird Up.
Bird Up for $5. Thank you so very much. Speaking of the legacy of the X-Files, does anyone remember Baywatch Nights?
Yeah, I remember that.
It was pure bandwagon jumping, but the intro was hilarious. Yeah, I remember that show. I think I watched it.
The tragedy of Baywatch is this. It was actually a fun show. And then they did a Baywatch movie, and it was a dumb movie. And it made me realize how good that original show was. Because that show was earnest. That show was earnest, right? They went with the hot people jumping up and down.
Yeah,
it wasn't mocking them. It was going with it.
Yeah. They knew what they were doing, and they rocked with it, and everyone loved them for it.
1 billion people watched it worldwide. So I put in the private chat. I reference. You got to put it up. Nefertiri. Can someone put her up?
Oh God, this is good. You're gonna start making me drool about outfits.
Oh my God.
Again, if I bring this up right there.
And Baxter.
Nice.
That blue.
Oh.
I want that. God damn.
That was
That
a little
jewelry?
revealing there. I can't go any lower.
Hey, there were no nipples.
This is supposed to be a biblical epic, folks.
No.
It's toxic femininity. The female said the boobs are okay.
As they were wrapping that linen.
I mean, I saw this movie when I was 4 years old. I just arrived from Pakistan, just learned how to speak English from watching Magilla Gorilla cartoons. And I saw this, and it blew me away. And it gave me my love. Here we go. It gave me my love for filmmaking, for epic filmmaking, for spirituality, and for incredibly beautiful. I fell in love with Anne Baxter. I was 4 years old. I was like, ooh, Nefertiri. Oh my God. And she's a white chick. She ain't Egyptian. And I'm okay with it.
We just have to gaze upon what God gave her there. I tell you what, she is not wearing a bra, kids.
I don't think any of them. None of them were wearing bras.
There were no bras yet.
BC, whatever.
I don't think you can wear a bra and wear.
I thought it was actually BB before bras, but
yeah, they just like wrap that linen to kind of strap you in, to truss you in.
She has one of the greatest lines in that movie, which is when she tells Pharaoh after their kid's been killed and she wants Moses dead, right? Because she loved Moses until God kills her kid, right? And then she turns against Moses, not surprisingly.
Good enough reason though.
And then Pharaoh's like, it's like, what is he just let all them go? And she says to him, he says, he's like, she's disrespecting him, and he's like, don't talk to me that way. The priests say Pharaoh is a god. She says, God, you're not even a man.
I know. I was like, damn,
you're not even a man. And that's what makes him goes off and chase Moses, right? That one line triggers him. You're God, you're not even a man. Right. You let this guy kill your baby and you just let him walk out of here.
Woo. Woo.
Oh my God, I love her.
Yeah,
guys, I do need to start winding down. I asked for forgiveness. Is there any other sort of final
we just have a couple here. We got Jin Carrera, who sent in a super sticker. I believe it was another Shiba dog.
Inu dog, yes.
Thank you so much for that. And then we have this one here.
Let's see. Ajax the Greatest for $2. Talking about Reach again. Girl, we get. Ooh,
she gets all sorts of Misty and all that stuff.
In a few days.
I can't wait till we talk about that.
I can't wait to, Lorena. It's gonna be good.
And then we got G-Dog here asking about that business in Shirley Temple versus Brie Larson. I think that one's for you, Arden.
Yes, G-Dog. You have to say it that way because it feels like you should say it that way. The double D. G-Dog.
Dog.
For a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, G-Dog. What's everyone's take on the Brie Larson nonsense?
What's happening now with her?
She tried to compare herself to Shirley Temple, and the internet handed her ass to her.
Oh, I saw that. I mean,
she does stupid stuff like that now.
I mean, look. I really get the impression I really get the vibe that she's not even ill-intentioned. She just doesn't know what's going on. I don't think she has any idea what's going on outside of her bubble at all. Like out 2 feet outside of her bubble. Like she doesn't know what's happening the rest of the time.
This is what happens when you were basically homeschooled from the beginning, and then you were a acting kid who became an acting adult.
Yeah.
You don't know what reality is.
Yeah. I mean,
I got that feeling when we watched her like YouTube comeback video like a couple weeks ago. I was just sitting there and I'm like, she has literally no idea what the outside world. Like if we stuck her in a Walmart, she wouldn't know what to do with herself.
No.
What is this? Where's the
She's like Gwyneth Paltrow? Yeah.
Where do you put the money?
What's a dollar bill?
Why are the smiley faces all around this store?
Is this a 20?
It's like a friend of mine who has worked with Steven Spielberg, a lot in his crew, said to me once that on a project they had to take Spielberg to LAX because he was going to film there, right? Spielberg had not been in sort of real LAX. I'm sure he uses the private jet section, but he flies out of Santa Monica. He hadn't been in LAX since like 1977 or something like that, right? And so it's like 40 years later, he comes in with his crew to LAX to check it out for location scouting, and he said, "Oh my God, there's restaurants here." What? When did they put restaurants here? Like you can get like a Starbucks inside LAX? Like he had no idea. He hadn't been in LAX amongst the common people. Like he always goes through the special entrance to straight to his private jet, right? And so all the crew was laughing. Like he was walking, like he was like a child walking around like Toys R Us. It was all like, "Oh man, we got to get this in the shot. What, they got this thing here? Oh my, we got ATMs in here." I mean, it's like his own planet, right?
To be fair, if I had my own private jet, I would probably solely eat in my private jet. So what's the point if you don't have good food on your private jet?
I would live in my private jet.
I'd have a hot
in their car, right? I would just go live. I was like, I'm just going to stay here. Why would I live anywhere else except my private jet?
I got private jet money. Why would I go eat at like Chick-fil-A?
And if you've ever been to LAX, that's an airport you really don't want to have to go through unless you have.
It's literally laxative.
Yeah. I'm like, can I fly to Burbank, please?
And like the American terminal has like got nothing now. It's like American terminal doesn't even have any good like food anymore and whatever. It's just like it's all crap. Whatever. Yeah. So on that note, is there anything else, Tom? Because I got to take care of some stuff.
just this
We have this
$100
very, very generous super chat
Oh,
here.
wow. Well, hello. That's
Australian
very generous. Hello.
dollar. I
That's
think
fair.
Cameron should read this one.
I'll read it as my final thing. TC Mutt for 100 Australian dollars. That's no joke there. Thank you so much. Very, incredibly generous for supporting this channel, these lovely ladies. Would you be willing to watch Beast Stars on Netflix? Worth a watch. It's got something there. Trust me. Great story and writing. Prove me wrong. I am unfamiliar with Beast Stars.
It's
I
a
just
Netflix
looked-
anime.
Yeah, I just looked it up. It's anime, so I automatically
Okay.
put that on my list, my watch list. So,
okay. Well, I'll ask my
check
niece
that
because
out.
she's Ms. Manga, Ms. Anime. She knows everything, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's like she's self-teaching herself Japanese from YouTube videos. She's pretty good at it. And so, I
Nice.
mean, so I should ask my niece about
Wow.
this. But TC,
Mhm.
but thank you for incredible generosity. But thank you for letting us know about
Yes.
this. There's so much
Thank
entertainment out there we
you.
don't know about, and
Thank
it's people like you that can give us the heads up.
Mhm.
All right, so hopefully we get a
Wonderful.
chance to check that out. And thank you so much, TC Mutt, for that very, very generous Australian super chat, or Australian $100 super chat, I was trying to say. And Cameron, check out his Patreon in the meantime. And anything else you got going on that you want to plug before you go?
No, my Patreon's a big thing right now, and it's we just crossed 200 members, and I use the word members because it is very much a community now. We've gotten to a place where first I was just posting my opinions on things, but now people are arguing, they're debating, they're posting their own opinions. People are leaking me things. Just this weekend, I posted some internal documents that a Patreon member of mine, who's a Disney employee, gave, just talking about how the language is changing in internal documents away from woke language, right? And so that's stuff that is not really out there in the public. So come join me on my Patreon because you'll see things. With time, it's becoming really a community and an insider thing. And so come join me there, and they're going to get some fun stuff on there.
All right, folks, definitely check out Cameron's Patreon.
All right, so lovely ladies, lovely Tom. Thank you all for your hospitality. And thank you for letting me come on. I come on pretty regularly. A day will come in the very near future. Won't be able to come on very much. So I appreciate the time that I have now to come with you. So
thank you for being here, Cameron.
Thank
Take care.
you so much. Take
All
care.
right.
God bless.
God bless. Talk soon.
Bye.
And we are all caught up on the super chat. So did we have any more stories to go through, or are we all caught up?
We're just going to catch up on what Peter Dinklage said, so we can go out with
I was
go out
thinking
with
the same thing,
that.
Casperius, but I wasn't going to say a word.
Oh.
Never look a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah,
I'm
just clip it and
gonna
save it. Yeah.
I'm gonna take the compliments where I can get them. All right, fuck Dinklage.
Yeah, I loved him as an actor. What the hell happened to him?
Sorry. That was my screen trying to make it big. It didn't work. Yeah, this is heartbreaking because I really liked Peter Dinklage as an actor. Love him in Game of Thrones. Even with him as the angry elf, in the movie.
Damn, y'all.
That's so not right. Yes, we are. But I
Thank you,
love.
Dark King, for the $2. Yes, we're finishing the stream with a short story.
Nice.
I just as an actor, I liked him. And in a way, I still do, even though he's saying stupid stuff like this. And it wasn't about his stature. That was kind of like the second thing, that I looked at. But according to Peter Dinklage and what he's getting raked over the coals for, is he's saying that, okay, well, Disney, you're so progressive in casting a Latino actress as Snow White, but you've got 7 dwarves living in a cave.
We were both all laughing at this.
What do
Time
y'all
out.
think of that statement?
Time out. Hold up. I've seen this movie at least a few dozen times. They don't live in a cave. They work in a mine. They live in a cottage, and they got slave labor from some white bitch. Please.
Yeah, they living it up, honestly.
Someone to cook your food, wash your drawers.
Getting rich off, the minerals in the mine. Yeah, that's a good life right there. Yeah.
That kind of life. They did her a favor. She was, out there pretty much left for dead because remember, she was running away from the huntsman who was ordered by the evil queen to cut her heart out and bring it back to her.
Like a normal person.
Yeah.
Yeah, the serious part of this is that the dwarves are the heroes of the story, right?
Absolutely. They take her in, you know, they learn from her, she learns from them, and this happy medium. And the dwarves are besides them because they told her, do not talk to strangers. Said, okay, do not talk to strangers. What did she do? Talk to some old lady with the freaking apple,
The
handing
evilest
it
apple you've ever
to
seen.
her. Yes. Dipped, and it's like, you know, looks like a freaking skull on it.
Yeah.
Gives her the apple. She bites the apple and falls down like she's freaking dead. And when the dwarves come back and they see that, they are beside themselves.
You have to be so careful these days what you put in your mouth.
Nice. That was a good one. Bravo. That was good. 10 out of 10 joke. That was good. Nice.
I'm surprised she didn't say that earlier, actually.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
But I just find it really disingenuous of this guy to make it seem as if the seven dwarves was some kind of stereotype when it was far from anything but. They're fictional magical creatures. And he's talking about Disney make it more progressive. What is it going to be? Snow White and the Seven Giants? That
they're all going to fit. Yeah, they're all going to fit in a house. Yeah, that's going to work. Yeah.
And it's like what you said earlier, Lorena, and you too, Eris, I think. You both commented on how I guess they are now no longer, they're going to hire people who are not little people for this position. They're going to computer generate it, right? Was that what they're doing now?
Yep, CGI magical creatures. Now to be fair, and I think Clownfish TV had said that it's possible that the original plan was to CGI them anyway as magical creatures. So that
I kind of thought that too. I wouldn't be
along.
surprised if they just wouldn't do, 3D animated versions of the original dwarves, just a little diversified.
Yeah. So that may have been the plan, all along. But on the outside looking in, where you don't know that, these words from him basically is like, okay, you just do not want little people to play little people. And it's not like, and we were talking about this backstage, it's not like we are not used to seeing little people constantly in movies, in television, like R2-D2, Kenny Baker, we're used to seeing him. Warwick Davis, we're used to seeing him. Wee Man from Jackass, Vern Troyer in, the Austin Powers movies. And even in reality TV, Big Little People, Big World, there's that. There were spinoffs from that. Little Women LA, which is one of my favorite trash reality TV shows. But it's not a stereotype. It's a reality with respect to regular people and, little people where there wasn't a market for their talent and their acting talent. It's out there, and no one thinks differently about it. But it seems like he's trying to project that people see them as stereotypes, and I don't track with that.
Well, from what I understand, a lot of Hollywood peers are saying that, he's had his chance to play all these roles and opportunities. And by kind of removing opportunities for other little people to play roles like this, it's kind of like I wouldn't say sabotaging anyone's career, but it certainly does reduce the opportunity or chances for getting a role in that, regard.
Yeah. I mean, if his whole idea, like long game wise, was to cut out the competition, he did a bang up job because he had so many people just lost potentially their jobs in this. So, damn.
Exactly. This one dwarf actor, Dylan Post, I hope I said that right, Postal. He basically said Peter Dinklage may be the biggest dwarf actor of all time, but it doesn't make him King Dwarf.
Damn, that's so good. I love that.
Good for you. Good for you, mister. I'm actually just so surprised that Disney listened to this. You know, I'm just surprised that they took this to heart.
It was right there. I didn't
Well, I think
grab it.
that's where Lorena was coming off in the beginning, was that it may not even have been it was easy for them to quote unquote buckle because they weren't going to do it in the first place. But again, I don't see the problem with why. I look, I've known little people in the past, and they've said this kind of shit to me before, that, you know, it's not the easiest to get a job, obviously, right? Sure, in certain situations you can get disability, but most people don't want to live like that. But you know, or fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of the options for little people are the entertainment industry, and in some cases it can be a very lucrative job. But what Dinklage has done here is completely taken that away from, you know, people in the industry that are dying to get work, because it's not like there's a ton of roles for little people in the industry either. Like, unless you work for a special effects company, like, you know, like the Henson Company or something like that, or, you know, happen to already have a cushy job like Peter Dinklage, where you're making $1.2 million an episode.
Dang, go on.
Like, most little people never see that much in their entire career, right? Like, it's insane. I mean, there aren't very many people who are like Billy Barty, who are actually very prolific in their lifetime work. Davis, they're few and far between. And Dinklage is one of them now, and he needs to understand that saying this kind of stuff is going to scare the industry away from using little people as actors.
Yeah, he literally shot himself in the foot. Like, I mean, honestly, he did.
You know, another thing that would have been interesting is if you know, he had come up with, you know, I understand, you know, sometimes you see a movie and you're like, well, I'm not that fond of that concept, but go ahead and make your own version. You know, like do go ahead and be inspired by this and make a film, you know, rather than try to change someone else's artistic views.
But that's hard. That's hard. That takes work.
Yeah, and imagination and
creativity.
Well, people are wanting me to bring up, because we also have a super chat about this, but there was the movie Tiptoes as well. Check out the trailer. I've seen the movie. It has Peter Dinklage in it, but also it has in the lead, what's his face? He played Commissioner Gordon in the Nolan films. I just forgot his name.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. Yeah, he's playing a little person, literally on his
Really?
knee.
Interesting to have someone who's actually that, and then someone who's not playing like the same. All right, interesting choice.
And yeah, I'd show the trailer, but it does get in a copyright. And yeah, Chris Gore has brought it up a few times as well. But yeah, thank you, Jesus Davila, and other people are bringing it up.
Thank you.
As I said, I've seen it. It's not the greatest movie in the world. But just the fact that he's a hypocrite and a half is the point. And,
well, he already got paid for that. Doesn't matter to him.
And I don't remember if I brought this up on the show or in the beginning before we started the show, like a couple of weeks ago when they had the big Disney Day thing, when they were showing all the previews for stuff, they introduced, Warwick Davis introduced us all to the new cast of Willow. Not one single little person in the new cast.
Wow. Actually, I wanted to address this point right here.
Yeah.
We're not making fun of his size. Where did you get that?
Yeah, I certainly.
The short.
No, none of us were doing that.
Like
Making
short story
fun-
and blah blah blah. No, but we make fun of everyone equally. That's the thing. That's the whole glorious thing. Is that we believe in equality. So we're not picking on him, like going out of our way to pick on him. It's like, nah. I've made fun of myself in the stream, so I mean, I don't know. You can't take a joke, get off the internet.
Yeah, no one is above being made a joke of. And if we were doing any kind of bigotry, we really wouldn't be talking about how Peter Dinklage, being a complete asshat, is taking work away from his peers.
And this is an article that focuses on being a dwarf. You know, this is what he's trying to say, is that he doesn't want to see any more roles like this. He feels that this role is, you know, condescending and disruptive to dwarfs in general. And, you know, it's really a decision I think that a lot of people would have to make if they're going to say, I'm never going to watch, you know, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs again. You know, that's a decision an individual can make. What we're talking about is the idea that his reaction to the story and to Disney has caused other actors to lose the opportunity to take those roles, and how upset those individuals are about losing them. And it's true. And it's unfortunate because he, you know, Dinklage himself has gone ahead and benefited from playing those roles, perhaps not a dwarf in the Seven Dwarfs, but in similar roles in his career.
This one, Hervé Villechaize, okay, who is probably one of the most famous dwarf actors, R.I.P., who played Tattoo in Fantasy Island.
Yeah.
Peter Dinklage didn't have any problem playing him.
Oh, and speaking of, Peter Dinklage is making a new version of Cyrano. And guess what? Instead of it being about a person with a big nose, it's about a little person.
What?
Oh God, he's self-inserting.
So he's actually using that
Oh,
as a
hell
crutch
no.
in this new movie version of it. For
Can
those who don't know, most famously in recent years, Steve Martin did that story as Roxanne.
Exactly.
I love that play. It's one of my favorite plays of all time. It's so romantic.
That is one of the most classic love stories.
Because they asked him, are you going to have the nose? He's like, no. So clearly they're just using the gimmick of him being a little person. That's it.
No, so it's fine when you're getting paid for it on your own terms,
to use it to your
and
advantage.
anybody else, it's
right.
Yeah,
If he wasn't Peter Dinklage, he wouldn't be getting that treatment.
They would have made that movie. Let's be real.
No.
Unbelievable.
Gross. That's I call that gross. That's fucking
very.
I'm going to call it out for what it is, even though it's a readaptation. It's still a remake and a ripoff of Roxanne. That way we can shit on it that way. I'm just kidding. No.
Now I want to go back and watch Roxanne.
Roxanne's great.
I loved that movie. It was great. I was like, Cyrano to who? And they were like, yeah, it's based on Cyrano de Bergerac. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, okay. And then I actually went back and read the book. I still prefer Roxanne, but still.
Oh, it's a great flick. Great flick. Very well done. Very clever. Great way to update a story, right? Like we talk about that all the time, you know, like you can do this stuff, right? Like you can take a classic story and change it and update it and it will work. And that shows is another great example of how you do it.
Yeah, Romeo and Juliet is Titanic. There you go.
Yeah. Well, they actually, I didn't mind the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet. My only issue was I almost was partially like, you know, I hate saying it. It's almost sacrilege, but they might as well have updated the speech, right? Like they shouldn't almost have them doing it in Shakespearean speech because it just kind of takes you out of it, as opposed to where just the production design and the way that it was put together is just gorgeous and it just it's like, okay, yeah, you're being a little too pretentious with the speech. You could have just had them if you're gonna modernize it, fucking modernize it. Just don't stop 2/3 of the way.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
I agree.
But for those who enjoy it with the Shakespearean speak, I'm not going to take that away from them either. So I understand, but to me, that was the only part where it kind of started coming off pretentious.
Let's see. I think we have one more super chat before we.
Yeah, I think we got one or two here. We've got this one right now. This is the first one. Then we'll go backwards.
Okay, so we have Hillis Mallory for $5. Thank you so very much. Let's see, Mr. Dinklage. Pixies, brownies, dwarves, and all little and live. Clearly, we need to stay away from fantasy to avoid offending you.
Well, this is a good.
You got offended brownies? I'm sorry. I missed something. You got offended by brownies?
Well, this is a good point. And it goes to this mysticism of people in science fiction and fantasy. And, are we comfortable with seeing people of different heights and sizes? I'm comfortable with it, but, this is a question that, perhaps there are many actors who are that way, are not comfortable with it. I mean, what do you guys think?
there was, I can't remember where it was, TLC, one of those that shows relationships, Barcraft, whatever, and they were showing are kind of like the reverse that you usually see. You had a very almost like a 5 foot man, and the woman was 6'7", kind of thing. You're just like, and you see it, and you're obviously in love, and they kind of like struggle a little bit, but like it's cute, and you kind of just love it, and I don't see anything wrong with that, like at all. My brain doesn't register it as, oh, he's small, right? It's just like one of those like that. They're just like a couple trying to figure out how to interact and deal with things like that people normally would in the real world. And I don't know, to see him being like, well, you know what? I don't like being small, and I don't like other small roles being over there, except for when they pay me and I'm in charge and I have stuff and I'm getting things out of it. And then that's fine. But if other people are getting money off of it, then it's not okay. Dude, calm down.
He might be a little self-hating because his wife is pretty tall.
That could be possible, and that's what I'm thinking of. If you're worried, if that offends you about taking, roles like that or being seen like that, then perhaps you're in the wrong business, because acting is an industry that will chew you up and spit you out. And you either need to be secure in yourself or not participate at all. Because I guarantee you, there's plenty of other small statured people like, you don't want that role? Okay, get out of the way because I'm getting paid.
Bird Up says Peter's upset that he only gets small roles now. Actually, I'd argue against, I know you're just kidding, but really, I mean, there's a lot of roles that Peter has gotten that normally little people wouldn't. So he's the last fucking person in the world who should be talking about this stuff. Like, he has broken a lot of those barriers, right? I mean, he really shouldn't be talking like that, in the sense that it really is kicking the ladder out from underneath him.
Truly.
Sorry, I jumped on that one, so I don't know who's next. My
okay.
bad. Just habit. It was habit.
I think it's I think so.
Yeah, Mikey Lito. Hi, Mikey Lito. Mikey Lito, thank you for the $5 super chat. We so appreciate it. Would Peter Dinklage prefer 12 little people getting jobs, or 12 people like Tim Conway as dwarf getting jobs? Hello, and ladies and Tom.
And that's a great point, because I mean, here you go again. Even if Disney wasn't originally planning on casting little people in this role, you already have a situation where prior to this, a lot of little people were getting roles in like costumed roles, like I brought up, Henson films, obviously in Star Wars and Willow and all these other kind of roles that normally would do in sci-fi fantasy, where they do get the jobs. You're already kind of killing a situation where there were a lot of little people were already losing jobs to CGI, and now you just made sure that was going to happen even more so, is what I was saying before too.
And here's an example, Tom. John Leguizamo, who has made himself quite vocal about some of the things he's saying in Hollywood that he doesn't approve of. He played Toulouse-Lautrec in Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
Wow.
No.
Well, Leguizamo's another one who has no room to talk, because he has gotten a lot more, again, another barrier breaker, to where there's a lot of roles he's gotten that weren't just based on him being, Latino, right? Like, especially considering he played a fucking plumber that was not, he was Italian, clearly. Like, Luigi, and other roles where they had nothing to do with his race, right? Like, there's only a few times where he's played roles that had anything not his race, but you know what I mean.
His ethnicity.
Ethnicity, sorry. So used to talking about race, but you know what I meant. But I had to correct myself. But yeah, I mean, he's very rarely does he play a role that has anything to do with his ethnicity. And in this case, it's another person where I feel like you're the last person who should be talking right now. And you talking like this is just going to stop people from getting jobs.
Absolutely.
And I think we've kind of beat that to death.
I think we have. I think we've pretty much said all needs to be said on that particular subject. Great discussion as always. So I think all our super chats are wrapped up.
Yes, I don't think we missed any, but if anybody believes we did, let me know. But I'm pretty sure I kept up on them this time. So thank you for that. Now that they have that kind of fixed here in StreamYards, that's nice to have. But yeah, so Eris, thank you for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure meeting you. Tell us a little bit about your channel and where they can find you.
Hello everyone. Thank y'all for having me on. That was so nice. I'm Eris of Chaos. Y'all can find me on YouTube and Twitter. I do long form analysis content on Saturdays, and I'm a member of the Fandom Menace on Wednesdays with Lorena. And sometimes I'm on other places, like this one.
We do have your link in the description, so people can check that out.
Yes, and I got told by one of my co-hosts on my Saturday show that I'm apparently 4 subscribers away from 600. So thank you all so much for subscribing. That was so
nice. Thank you guys so much. Eris has a wonderful channel. Wonderful channel. Please.
I tried.
I'm so glad you joined us tonight.
Daryl, you're 100% right about this. Take some notes from Kurt Russell. I've been looking for that interview with him and Goldie, because Goldie finally came out and was on, saying, yeah, actors should just keep their politics to themselves and all that business. I'm like, I want to find that interview where Kurt put her in her place, because she's all like, oh, if you have a platform, you should talk. And Kurt's like, no, you should shut the fuck up.
I know. That was great.
And they're sitting there having a little lovers quarrel right in front of the camera. Like, I've been looking for this interview for weeks. So if somebody knows where I can find that, send it my way. I've been wanting that for a while. I couldn't find it after. Like, did they scrub that from the internet? But yeah, sorry. That was
crime.
hilarious.
That's a crime.
I'm just glad Goldie came around, because I love Goldie. So yeah. Speaking of Roddy McDowell, he was in Overboard, and he helped produce that, actually.
Really?
Yeah, he plays Goldie Hawn's butler.
Oh, I love that movie. Not the crap remake.
No, the original.
The one with the original one. Don't watch that remake. Trust me. Don't do it. Don't do
We
it.
were talking about Roddy McDowell earlier. Yeah. And then we have tell the folks where they can find you and a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I have my own channel called Positive Fandom on YouTube. And you can also find me streaming on Twitch, Positive Fandom, one word. And I look at IPs and everything under the sun that, have to do with pop culture. On Monday nights, you can find me here on Toxic Femmes, streaming with Lorena and other guests and Tom. On Thursday nights at 9 p.m., you can find me on the 1/6 Scale Man Network on a show called Uncivilized Scoundrels. On Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern, sometimes you can find me on Midnight's Edge in the Morning with Tom and Andre. On Friday night, you can find me streaming on Midnight Meta with Robert Burnett on the Burnett Network. And on Sundays, I have my live Sunday brunch at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Awesome sauce. And last but definitely not least, the lady who makes this show happen, Miss Lorena Creole. Tell them a little bit about yourself and where they can find you.
Hey, everybody. Of course, you can find me on Twitter, causing all kinds of mischief like I love to do over there. You can find me on Instagram, posting pictures of stuff. And, of course, you can find me on YouTube. And
I've graduated from causing mischief to havoc.
Oh, very good.
I know. I like that. Havoc is a cool word, and I like it.
Nice. Upgrade to chaos.
Yeah.
Getting there. Next is chaos. I'm just enjoying Havoc for now. I'm gonna stay level off at Havoc.
Yeah.
I'll wait for something really good to dip into chaos. Then it's like all bets are off. Fucking it.
I'll see you trending. I'll know you finally did it.
We're like, Tom, he went all in on that.
I'll break the internet at some point. It happens from time to time. I just got to say something like Miles Morales is in Spider-Man, and just all hell breaks loose.
Oh, well, tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern on
Yes.
my channel, we are going to be discussing either Mandalorian Season 3 or the Book of Boba Fett Episode 5. Either way, that's what we're going to be talking about on my channel tomorrow at 5 p.m. It's going to be on the panel. That
my
Steven
goodness.
Seagal will be on the channel, and Anzo Hodges of Biggerford Entertainment will be on the channel. So we're going to talk all about that. That's going to be at 5 p.m. Eastern. At 9 p.m. Eastern, I'm so excited that I am going to be on Chrissy Myers' channel.
Oh, excellent.
Man, y'all gotta break the internet. God
Yes.
Oh,
I
wow.
I cannot flipping wait. So you can catch me
Yes.
over on Chrissy Myers'
Wow.
channel at 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. Wednesday, of course, 8:30 p.m. The Dark Council will be kicking off. Abu Nas is going to be celebrating. Oh, right, we got her so excited. Abu Nas is going to be celebrating 4 years of being on YouTube. So please do come out. The Dark Council, which is comprised of Abu Nas, Damaj and I, who I did see in the chat. Lord Commander Damaj and I is in the chat. Lord Callus, Gospel According to Mark with a C, Fatal J, and of course, Drunk 3PO. So please do go and check that out. And Friday at 12 noon for the Lunch Table Show, Comicsgate artist Charlie's London will be my guest.
Oh,
I
wow.
love that comic.
Please, yes. So please do come out and check that out. I'm excited to talk to her. And of course, Saturday is going to be the theme park stream. And if I get it right, I'm going to be live streaming from Universal for the Mardi Gras parade we're going to be having. So thank you guys so much for being here. Subscribe to all these amazing, amazing ladies on the channel. So to appreciate that. And thank you guys for hanging out with us. You know, we love hanging out with you here on Monday night. So thank you. Thank you for your support.
You're Steven Spielberg don't know nothing about restaurants and airport and then fucking eating in the food court. Can't even get a Diet Pepsi.
It looks like he's eating a Diet Coke. Like he just doesn't understand.
I'm eating some spaghetti, but
Oh, I see it. Okay.
I like Diet Pepsi. I got one rule. One fucking rule. I want a Diet Pepsi within 5 feet of me. And all they have is freaking Diet Coke.
Aww.
Damn.
Get your Diet Pepsi, Steven.
Yeah.
Disappointed.
So sad.
I love depressed George. It's so hilarious. All right. So with that, let's get the hell out of here. Take care, everybody. Take care of yourselves and each other. And we didn't miss any super chats, did we?
Nope. Tom, you're rocking it.
Okay,
You
good.
didn't miss
Just want to
anything,
make sure.
Tom.
Awesome sauce. I'm so glad when I don't. Be sure to get yourself a Toxic Femininity t-shirt or fancy ass hoodie where it's cold out there.
Woo!
I hear in Florida.
Yes, it is.
Wusses can wear these awesome shirts. So
it's cold.
There you go. And with that, we're gonna get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Take care, kids.
Bye.